Mrs. Vest, the defendant is your stepson, and according to your complaint, you have custody of his child.
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of his child, and he has no parental rights. He gave up his parental rights. You claim that he owes you some child support, which he voluntarily agreed to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
That he owes you some rent because he was living in a house that you and your husband allowed him to live in, and a utility bill.
All the utilities.
All the utility bills for the period of time that he and his either fiancée or new wife were living there. Mr. Vest says that he gave up his parental rights and he had no obligation to pay support, that he told you he would pay rent in the house as he could afford it. He couldn't afford it, so he didn't pay it. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I paid
All right. How old is this child that you have custody of, Mrs. Vest?
He is 3.5.
And how long has he been in your custody?
Since he was 3 months old.
Is he in your custody through the state?
No, ma'am. It was voluntary. I have temporary and final agreement custody papers.
Can I please see the custody papers?
The original temporary, I agreed to sign them because his mother, my ex, was leaving the state, and it was the only way that everybody could, keep my son from leaving the state with her was by signing temporary custody over to my stepmom and my dad, because as a dad, I wanted to be part of my son's life. Because
signing over temporary custody to people that you feel are appropriate caretakers is fine. But according to the plaintiff, you terminated your parental rights.
He's never actually had any parental rights. In the temporary order, it is visitation upon reasonable request, that sort of thing. In our final agreement, Tim is not in it at all.
I was made to feel that if I didn't sign them, I would never get to see my son again.
I don't care what you were made to feel, sir. How old are you?
28.
Get over it. First of all, I don't see any papers here whatsoever terminating your parental rights.
The agreement was I would pay them $50 a week as long as I got to see Michael. I missed 2 weeks of payment. My stepmom, Christy here, told me I would not be able to see Michael. Well, I told her then, until I get to see Michael again, that I would not give her no money.
I want you to take the cobwebs out of your brain and listen to me, because I'm going to speak very, very clearly to you. You and your ex-girlfriend made this baby, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You and your ex-girlfriend had no right to make a baby because according to what you signed, neither of you were emotionally, financially, or in any way capable of taking care of a baby. And clearly that's true, because you said you signed this agreement because the mother was in no way capable of taking care of this baby. And clearly if you were, you would have gone to court and said, but I'm the father, and I'm capable of taking care of the baby. But you weren't. So you turned the baby over to your father and his wife. You, therefore, made a baby that you couldn't take care of. That is not a good thing, Mr. Vest. This lady is, in any way, by blood. She assumed the responsibility of cleaning up after your mess. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So there is no reason why you should not pay support for 2 weeks. None. Unless you were in a hospital. Were you in a hospital?
No, ma'am. I had lost my job and was in the process of finding another one.
Collect cans. I don't care what you have to do to make $50 a week. Some stranger is cleaning up after your mess, and you're not a baby. So you do whatever is necessary to take care of your financial responsibility, if nothing else. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, how many weeks has it been since you haven't paid $50?
Roughly.
How many weeks has it been, Mrs. Vest?
22.
Now, you are married now, is that right?
Separated.
Oh. Is this your only child?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's at least a blessing. You working?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there came a time when you were all living together.
Yes, ma'am.
They let you move into the house. You moved into the house, then you brought your girlfriend. So far, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
My husband.
How many children does he have?
He has 3.
Is this the only one that needs help?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the youngest, the oldest, the middle?
He's the oldest.
Yes.
When I met my husband, when we decided to move in together, he brought Tim, and at that time, his girlfriend with him.
Not the mother of this child.
Yes, the mother of this child.
Oh, the mother of this child. So she moved in too.
Yes, ma'am. I got all of them. And she was pregnant almost from the get-go, and they had the baby. I didn't agree with the way that she was raising the baby. She decided to leave Tim. Basically, I told her, you sign the custody papers and I'll buy you a bus ticket back to Kentucky.
And she said, okay.
And she said, okay. The defendant over here has done several things that I have not agreed with. At one particular time, his now wife they were living at my house. We had gone out one night, and she decided that she couldn't find a bracket for the baby gate to put on the door. So she nailed a piece of plywood across the bedroom door to keep the baby in his bedroom.
How old was the baby at that time?
Just a little over 2. And the last time it came up under conversation, Tim still saw nothing wrong with it.
I did not say I didn't see nothing wrong with it.
Don't answer. You think that there's something wrong with nailing wood
Yes,
over
I
the door?
agreed with there was something wrong with it, but I was also at the time in love, and I was trying to talk to her to find out why that she had done it.
Because she's missing a few screws. I don't know about you. Sounds to me as if you may have been made for each other. Now, so you owe her so far $1,100. Now you and now your current separated wife lived in their house after they moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
You were supposed to pay the mortgage?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't.
Up until I lost my job at Bluebird, yes, ma'am, I did.
And how many months did you live there without paying the mortgage?
3 or 4.
How many months,
without
Mrs.
paying
S?
nothing. 3 or 4 without
4.
paying nothing.
And what was the mortgage?
$392.23 a month.
When it come time for me to move out, and they come and ask me to leave, and I, went and found a place to live. Well, when I went back to get my stuff, and this is why I do not think I actually owe them anything, because when I went back to get my stuff, everything I owned was thrown out in the road. When I called her about it, she asked me if I had seen some of my stuff. I said, yes, I did. She asked me if I had seen my coffee table. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, the leg that was broke off, I broke it off with my bare hands.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Last time she
Claims her stepson, Tim Vest, doesn't financially support his son. Christy claims she's been the one caring for the child.
Now, what month did you move out?
The end of September, beginning of October.
So you moved out in October.
October the 8th.
And for 4 months prior to that, you had paid no expenses on the house, including the utilities. Is
Just
that right?
the bare necessities. I paid.
I'm asking you a question. You had paid no expenses on the house, no mortgage, and no utilities. When you say bare necessities, what was that?
Just whatever.
How about cable?
No, ma'am. I did not have cable.
So what expenses did you pay?
Like the water bill, I'm paid.
So they wouldn't turn off your water?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay the
And
water bill, yeah.
I did whatever it took to let them keep the electric on at the time.
Everything for your comfort. What about their mortgage?
As I was trying to get the money, I was trying to get it up to pay it, but...
Mr. Vest, when did your stepmother ask you to move if you weren't going to pay the mortgage? The first month that you didn't pay the mortgage?
No, ma'am. She actually asked me before that, and I went and called everything up. She'd give me an eviction notice on the agreement.
Oh, just a minute. So this wasn't the first time
No,
that you
ma'am,
stopped
this
paying?
was the second.
What'd you stop paying for the first time?
I was transferring to a different job. And I had found a better job, and I was in the process of getting to that better job and getting settled into
Well, how
it.
long did it take you to get to that job? Was it the other part of the state?
No, ma'am. It was waiting on the better checks to come in. It was a period of about a month. And when I got in there and everything, I called everything up. So
Because she served you with an eviction notice.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Yeah, and this time 4 months went by and you didn't pay anything. Last time she served you, according to you, with an eviction notice, you only hadn't paid for 1 month.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this time you didn't pay for 4 months. Where do you think your things would have been if you lived in my house? Pluto. You have no right to live in somebody else's property, sir, without paying rent. And you were living there with another person. What was she doing?
She actually, at the time, we were separated.
So you were living there alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Starting
I had a roommate.
starting when?
I had a roommate that had moved in with me.
So now there are 2 people sponging off them. Really 3, including your child. You're some beauty. Where are you working now?
I'm working for a construction company.
Good. How much in utility bills was left over?
There's a total of 60-something cents.
Well, you're already over what you're suing him for. You're suing him for $3,600. You're already over that. Hey! You have certain responsibilities, Mr. Vest. You have to take care of those responsibilities. Nobody cares whether you don't have a job. You're 28 years old. Go to a place where you can find a job. There are places that I go to every day where it says help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. Could be something you don't like to do. Well, if you don't have any other responsibilities, you can pick and choose. But when you make a baby, you don't have the right to pick and choose. And when you want to eat, and when you want to sleep someplace, and when you want water, and when you want a roof over your head, you have to accommodate that. Otherwise, go to a shelter.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Pas exclu, je laisse la parole.
Rita Coleman is suing her neighbor, 26-year-old Anika Monroe, for pain and suffering. Jarita says her little girl was injured when Anika's daughter ripped out her braids.
Miss Coleman, your claim is that Miss Monroe's daughter assaulted your daughter, pulled out her hair, dragged her through the dirt, and it wasn't the first time that this sort of behavior has occurred.
Right.
You want Miss Monroe to pay you damages and damages for pain and suffering on behalf of your daughter. Miss Monroe says that actually her daughter was just defending herself when this fight took place. Neither one of you were present, is that right?
Yes.
And you had no out-of-pocket expenses. Any expenses that you had were covered by insurance. Is that correct?
Right.
Before I ask you to sit down and before I start dealing with your daughters, Miss Monroe, I want to know if Miss Coleman had come to you previously to complain to you that your daughter was picking on hers.
Yeah.
How many times?
I can remember twice.
Had you ever had complaints like that about your daughter from other people?
No.
And what did you do when Miss Coleman came and reported that to you?
Talked to my daughter about it.
And what did she say?
She wouldn't say too much of anything. Jarita said that she had previously talked to her and asked her why she did it. But when she came to the house and said, you know, said I talked to Quando, she wouldn't say anything.
What's your daughter's name?
Condoleezza.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
What do you call her?
Jazzy for short.
You don't mind if I do?
She would love it if you could.
What's your name?
India.
All right. Bird, I'd like you to bring these two young ladies up here together, please. How old are you, Jazzy?
8.
And you?
7.
Do you like her?
Yes.
Do you like her?
Yeah.
Why were you fighting?
I don't know. Cause she hit my sister. Cause she hit my sister first.
How old is your sister?
4.
Why did you hit her sister? Look at me.
Cause her sister was picking on my sister.
Her sister, who's 4, was picking on your sister. How old is your sister?
4 and 3.
So you hit her 4-year-old sister because she was picking on your sister.
Yes.
That was the wrong thing to do. Do you know that?
Yes.
That's not your job. You're twice as old as she is. If her little sister is picking, who's a baby, is picking on your sisters who are babies, you go and you tell your mother. You're not supposed to hit a 4-year-old. You understand that?
Yes.
Did you tell your mother you hit her sister? Did you tell your mother that you hit her little sister?
No.
No. Did you know that? See what you find out? You understand now that that was the wrong thing. I'm telling you it was the wrong thing to do. Got it?
Yes.
Now, after she hit your sister, what did you do to her?
Nothing. I asked her why did she hit my sister. She said because she wasn't playing with me.
Oh. And what did you do then?
Nothing.
Well, I read the papers here. It says that you pushed her.
No, she hit me first and then I pushed her.
Where did she hit you?
Up on my back.
Did you fall down when she pushed you?
No, when she slapped me, I fell down because I got dizzy.
Why did you hit her?
Because she hit me.
She hit you first or you hit her first?
She hit me first.
Where did she hit you?
On my back.
And then what did you do to her?
Hit her.
How did she get her hair pulled out of her head?
She did it. I didn't pull her hair. I didn't do it.
Who pulled your hair?
She did.
How do you think her hair came out? Well, if she's your friend, she wouldn't want to blame you for something that you didn't do. Did you pull her hair out? Did you pull her hair?
No.
Her hair came out. How do you think that happened? I think you do. And I think that it's important for you to understand that as you get older, it becomes more important to use your brain and your mouth, not your hands. Because when you get big, you can hurt somebody if you use your hands. You understand that, Jazzy?
Yes.
That's not what young ladies do. Young ladies don't fight with each other with their hands. They use their brains. Men fight with their hands. That's the tool that they have. Women use their brains. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your mother's going to teach you that lesson. I'm telling you, it's the wrong thing for you to do to put your hands on somebody else. Ever. Is your hair growing back?
Yeah, a little.
Are you still friends?
Yeah.
You still play with each other?
No.
Would you like to play with each other?
Kind of.
What about you?
Kind of.
You think that maybe you learned your lesson about putting your hands on somebody else?
Yes.
Want to give her a hug?
Yes.
Want to give you a hug?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go back. Okay, moms, come on up. Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
I'm glad that you brought them here. Okay. Gotta talk to her. She has a truth problem that you better get to quickly before she starts fantasizing about things and making believe that things are true and thinking she can get over on adults. She can't. But Ms. Coleman, this kind of lawsuit is one that courts were really not designed to take care of.
Okay.
These are two children,
Right.
7 and 8 years old. They're friends. I have a feeling Miss Monroe learned some things today that she didn't know before.
Right.
And hopefully her daughter is going to do better. Right, Jazzy?
Yes.
You're going to do better, aren't you?
Yes.
You don't want to see me again.
No.
Huh?
No.
Next time, I guarantee you, it won't be as pleasant as it was today. If you can call today pleasant, next time it's going to be much more difficult. You don't use your hands. Smart girls use their brains.
Yes.
You got it?
Yes.
That's all. Take your daughters home.
Why does I excuse? You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 133 on the calendar in the matter of Gary versus Osmond Peterschmidt.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
Ms. Geary, is your claim that Miss Osmond, who manages a rooming house, and Mr. Peterschmidt, who was the owner of this house, wrongfully evicted you from your room? You want $5,000.
Yes,
For
Your Honor.
wrongful eviction. Ms. Osmond and Mr. Peterschmidt say that you broke, but they did not evict you. You chose to leave, and they didn't lock you out. they merely changed the locks after you left to prevent some of your odd boyfriends from coming into the house without permission. They also have a counterclaim for some rent and damaged property that I doubt that they would have pursued but for this lawsuit. Is that also correct?
Yes.
That's my sense. When did you move into this rooming house, Miss Geary?
I believe it was the 1st of January.
Where did you live before?
I lived in Davenport.
What kind of place?
It was a nice Victorian place with 4 apartment complexes in it.
And how long did you live there?
Probably, I'd say, 5 months.
Why did you leave?
Let's see. I don't remember why I moved. It was probably because to get a different place that was less money.
What was the name of your previous landlord?
Betty, I can't remember her last name, Betty.
Did you have a lease there?
Yes, I did.
Did you break the lease when you left?
Yes, but it was she let me.
I just want to know if you broke the lease when you left.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you moved in January of 2005. When did you move out?
The 25th of April. I was locked out. I moved out 4/19.
Did you pay rent in January, February, March, and April?
Yes, Your Honor.
So far, is everything correct, Miss Osmond, that you moved in January and moved out April 19th?
She was told to be out on April 18th. Her and Ted had an altercation in the kitchen. Carrie was supposed to have had some rent money for him that day.
Had she paid rent at the beginning of April?
She paid $300. Actually, her mother paid $300.
How much did she owe?
There was still a balance of $70. She also had cable and laundry facilities that she was using that she had to pay for, and that's where the $70 came up. And also, she says she was renting for 5 months beforehand. On her application, I have a DeWitt address, and there for a year.
Well, she lied someplace, either here or there. What was it?
I just always put that for mailing address. I didn't put my former landlord because we had a little tiff, so I
assumed you did. That's why I asked the question. I'm intuitive that way.
Right. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, you weren't honest with her. So if Miss Osmond went to check your references, she wasn't going to be able to find out where you would live previously, correct?
Correct.
Well, that was dishonest, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Because you didn't want her to find out that you left your previous apartment.
Correct.
Under circumstances where your previous landlord would have given you a negative report.
Correct.
Now, you want to tell me why you asked her to leave?
For one, she rented this room for herself. She moved in with numerous items, so much that she had to store stuff in the garage, in the kitchen.
All right, but you tolerated that.
She was given 2 weeks to get a storage unit and sort through the stuff, decide what she wanted in the room and what was going to be stored.
And did she do that?
No.
Ever?
No.
You mean the stuff was all over your house?
Yes.
Until April?
Until May, when she finally picked it up.
Why didn't you get your stuff out?
I had my stuff in the garage.
It wasn't supposed to be in the garage. You had 2 weeks to sort of...
They said that I could leave it in there. They said that was fine because they weren't using anything in the garage.
Is that right?
I kept giving her extensions, but I told her to get it to the side, get it out of the area so I could get the lawnmower and things out.
She wanted your stuff out. You kept making excuses why you couldn't get it out. She was being a nice person. That doesn't say you had an agreement you could leave it there. Miss Geary?
Correct.
Okay, what's next?
On the first occasion that I met her boyfriend, Ted and I were in the kitchen, and we had water coming through the upstairs ceiling, the shower that she shared with another roommate there. I go upstairs, I knock on the bathroom door, and she asked me to block the way so she could get him over to her room. And then she helped me clean up the mess.
And he was in the shower?
Yes, with her.
And so there was a flood?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's a problem. Did you pay for the damage? That's not a hard question.
No.
Did you pay for the damage?
It wasn't my damages. It was a pipe that was broke. It was nothing to do with me, Your Honor.
We couldn't determine actually what caused the leak. But
she told me that it was nothing to do with me.
What's next?
Then her and one of the other roomers had an argument. The other roomer moved out due to the fact that we received a phone call while I had him at a doctor's office saying that Dion was in the house alone, that he had threatened her.
You mean this is Dion?
Yes.
You may stand up. You have a last name?
Peters.
What do you do for a living?
Well,
is not an answer.
I work at my uncle's restaurant.
Sometimes?
Yes.
How infrequently do you work at your uncle's restaurant?
Like every 2 days.
He has income coming in every month.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Don't speak unless I'm speaking to you. How many times were you in Miss Geary's home when Miss Geary was not present?
About twice.
Could it have been 3 times?
Yeah, it could have been 3 times, Your Honor.
Could it have been 4 times?
No.
So 3 times?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, what were you doing there the 3 times that you were there when Miss Geary wasn't home?
I was in her room, sleeping, Your Honor.
How did you get in?
Carrie.
She wasn't there. How did you get in?
I mean, she was there when, she let me in.
Did she give you a key?
No. No,
Did you
Your
ever use a key to get in?
No, Your Honor.
Did you know you weren't supposed to be there unless she was there?
No, Your Honor.
Did you know he wasn't supposed to be there?
No.
Your Honor, she showed him where the hidden key was.
No.
So he walking into the house all the time.
I didn't show him where the key was at. He did see where the key was at, and I wouldn't have someone around me that I couldn't trust.
It's not for you to make that judgment, Miss Geary. If you want to show us somebody who is not a tenant, who doesn't live there, where a hidden key is that's to be used for tenants only, then I suggest you don't live in a rooming house.
Correct. I agree.
Good. So far I hear a lot of good reasons why they evicted you. A lot. I would have evicted you a lot sooner.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was being put...
Her former landlords, Chris Osman and Ted Peterschmidt, owe for an illegal eviction. The defendants are countersuing for unpaid rent and damages to their property.
Listen, Miss Geary, the first thing that you did that I would have evicted you for is lying on your rental application. That's
reason.
No,
okay.
Don't give me a reason.
All right.
Because it's hard to believe what a liar says.
Well, it's because I was at my mom's half of the time.
Listen to me, Miss Geary. The first reason that I would have evicted you is because what you did was not permit a prospective landlord to look into your background to determine whether you were a suitable tenant for their home, and you did that by giving them false information, knowing that if they called your prior landlord would say, don't rent to her, she's nothing but trouble. You just told me that a moment ago. You just told me. You want to change that now?
I don't want to change anything, but I would like to add something.
Go ahead.
I'd like to add that I did verbally tell them that I was living in Davenport, and I used the mailing address in DeWitt. I remember.
Listen to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Doesn't change anything that I just said to you. You gave them false information on your application because you wanted to prevent them from checking your background.
Okay.
So that's the first reason that I would evict you.
I wasn't.
Second reason that I would evict you is they rented to you, and they rented to other roomers. You permitted a stranger to have access to that hidden key, knowing that it was a hidden key to be used by tenants,
yes, Your Honor.
not their friends or shower mates.
Correct.
That's the second reason I would have evicted you. Third reason I would have evicted you is you were behind in your rent.
May I add something? I would like to tell you that I moved into a room across the hall, and if I was such a bad tenant, I don't know why they would allow me a month and a half after I was there to move into a new room.
They were being very nice to you, Miss Geary. They were also being very nice to you by allowing you to keep all your junk around. And you misinterpret, Miss Geary, being nice.
My junk
I'm
was out of
speaking.
sight.
I'm
Sorry,
speaking.
Your Honor.
You misinterpret being nice and saying, please move it. I'm
isn't-
speaking.
Okay.
With giving you permission to keep your stuff there. They wanted it out. You just didn't do it. You're a passive-aggressive personality. I would have gotten rid of you long before April. As soon as I found out, if I ever found out that you lied on your rental application, I would have gotten rid of you. You have no case for wrongful eviction. They had every right to get rid of you. Aside from everything else, you owed them rent, even if it was just a little bit of rent. Listen, I got it. She's a trouble tenant.
I'm not a trouble tenant.
Trouble.
There's another problem that we have.
Go ahead.
Since she's left, we received a phone call from Dion's ex-girlfriend where she had been making long-distance phone calls, and I have pages of phone bills. They're 1-minute calls numerous times.
Made by whom?
By Carrie.
To the girlfriend?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
That wasn't to the girlfriend.
Just a second. Just a second.
Okay.
Who was it? Who was it to?
It was to Dion. I never called his girlfriend.
Just a second.
Your
Listen
Honor,
to me.
his ex-girlfriend called my aide and told us that I was being put on the national harassers telephone list because of all these phone
She's a
calls.
nut. You're very lucky she doesn't live in your house anymore. Can I make a suggestion to you? I'm looking at these phone calls. You're a nut. Are you taking medication? Do you take medication?
Do I take medication?
It's my question.
For ADD, and that was locked up for 3.5 weeks that I could not get to, and that's
Listen,
one
Ms.
of...
Geary,
Yes.
we would not be going through this if you didn't bring on this ridiculous lawsuit for wrongful eviction. You want $5,000.
I didn't get...
Yeah, I want to tell you something.
I'm
I'm speaking. I'm looking at these phone calls that you made to his ex-girlfriend's house.
I didn't make the...
214. Whose number is that?
That's my cell phone number.
It's your cell phone.
Yes, Your Honor. Things are getting twisted here.
You mean she called you at 1-minute intervals, approximately 30 times a day? Is that what you're saying? Don't speak. Is that what you're telling me, Dion? That she called at least 30 times a day at 1-minute intervals?
The phone wasn't working.
Your Honor, well, she could have, but I'm not for sure, because I had 2 phones, so...
Now, Dion, listen to me very carefully.
Yes.
Because you don't want to fall on the tip of my nose. I guarantee you don't, because you don't know pain until you fall over here. See, she just figured out pain. You don't want to get there, do you?
No, Your Honor.
Is the second cell phone at your girlfriend's house?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't speak. Did you get your medicine back? Take it every day.
Carrie Geary says her former landlords, Chris Osman and Ted Peterschmidt, owe for an illegal eviction. The defendants are countersuing for unpaid rent and damages to their property.
Listen to me. You have an obligation if you run a boarding house, and your obligation is to check on somebody's credentials.
Check.
Listen to me.
Ted rented this one.
Ted, you are a very poor judge of character.
It was a situation that,
Ted.
okay.
Ted.
In that situation, you bet.
Ted. In a minute,
Yep.
if you have a nose for trouble, you can spot it. You don't have it, sir.
My aide checks everything now.
I want you to thank your lucky stars. You locked her out. She's gone. Right?
That's for sure.
That's for sure. You don't want to pursue that. You just want her to be gone, right? Right. Good. Your lawsuit is dismissed. I would have evicted you January 2nd.
Your Honor, it was dismissed.
Just a second.
Sure.
That's my ruling.
Okay,
You
thank
have
you.
no case for wrongful eviction. They rightfully evicted you.
Oh.
You were a bad tenant.
Okay.
And a lying one.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Adam Collins versus Greco. Step forward.
24-year-old Tommy Collins is suing Bertha and John Greco for totaling his parked car. Tommy claims John was driving drunk when he crashed into it.
Mr. Collins, you parked your car in front of your house?
Yes, ma'am.
And the next thing you knew, your car was a pile of rubble. It was a pile of rubble because Mr. Greco was driving drunk, careened off something, hit your car, flipped it over. The car was absolutely destroyed. I assume you have a picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greco acknowledges that he was driving drunk. Isn't that right, sir?
Correct.
His wife is the registered owner of the car. That would be you?
Yes, ma'am.
But Mr. Greco is an excluded driver on her insurance, probably because he has a very bad track record. Is that right?
Yes.
And they wouldn't give you insurance if he were allowed to drive your car.
Correct.
So now they have no insurance. Nobody there to pay for your car, they say. I'd like to see a picture of the car. You have a before and after for me?
No, I wish I did.
Oh, okay.
I just have after.
On what date did this happen, Mr. Collins?
August 12th.
Ooh, this is some bad accident.
I didn't get to see it happen. My neighbor Troy
Wow.
saw it happen.
You walked away from this?
No.
Did you take anybody else with you to the hospital?
No.
That's 3 DUIs if you had, Mr. Greco.
3.
How much time in jail have you spent?
10 days.
That's about 10 years too short, in my judgment, sir. And if I were queen of the world, you wouldn't be standing here today. If I were queen of the world, you would be in jail, because you are going to kill somebody one of these days. And unfortunately, the person you're going to kill is not going to be you. If it were you, it would be okay, but you're going to take somebody else with you. So in the best of all worlds, you wouldn't be here today, you would be incarcerated. How it was that he managed to get his hands on the keys to your car.
Well, at the time, I was working, and I always got up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'd be at work at 5. So I went to sleep between 6 and 7 at night. So I was in bed. I was sleeping.
How did he get his hands on the keys to your car?
They were in the house.
Why were they at a place where he could get his hands on them?
I keep my keys on my purse.
I would keep your keys in a safe.
After that, I did.
Well, you should have done it before, Miss Greco.
I didn't think he would do this.
Well, the 2 other times that he drove...
He was not with me. It was from before we were together.
Okay. So that's your excuse. Your excuse is that the keys were in your purse. He took the keys out of your purse. That's why you're not responsible. And what about you, Mr. Greco?
I'm responsible, but I tried to repay the gentleman, not repay his money, but I offered him a truck.
He didn't want a truck. He had a car. He just finished paying, according to his complaint, for his Nissan Altima. Why would he want your truck? I wouldn't want a truck. I like to drive a car. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
Insulation.
And how are you paid?
Check.
It's a good check, I assume, right?
Yes, it's a
So
regular
you cash
payroll.
it and you get money. You don't get wampum or yen, you get money. And you don't get refrigerators, you don't get canoes, you get cash. That's what he wants. You gone to court yet on this DUI?
I have, but they've been continuing it.
Oh, good. Maybe this judge will put you in jail for a couple of years. I certainly hope so. If you're listening out there, he belongs in jail before he kills somebody. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I got up, went to work, and I kept...
5:53 on the calendar in the matter of Worth versus Peck. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Worth, you have a dog.
Yes.
Ms. Peck owns a mobile grooming service, and according to you, about a year ago, you retained her to take care of your pet, and your lawsuit alleges that she caused the dog injury.
Yes.
You want her to compensate you for a whole bunch of things, including medical fees and stud fees and whatever. Ms. Peck says that it was due to your own negligence that the dog was as injured as he appears to be, and she is counterclaiming because she says that you've been bad-mouthing her service since this incident happened, and the incident had absolutely nothing to do with her neglect of your dog. What kind of a dog do you have?
A Cocker Spaniel.
How old?
He is 3 years old.
When did you hire Miss Peck?
January 14th of 2005.
Prior to January 14th, 2005, when had this dog been groomed and where?
Debbie's dog grooming.
Prior to January 14th, 2005, when had this dog been groomed at Debbie's dog grooming?
July 30th of 2004.
How often is the dog supposed to?
About every 3 months or so.
Between July of 2004 and January of 2005.
My sister-in-law had shaved him down.
So a non-professional shaved him down?
Yes.
When did a non-professional shave him down?
September.
So September, October, November, December, mid-January. So 4.5 months went by and the dog was not groomed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you found the defendant. She came to your house on January 14th. What happened?
She showed up at about 11:45, and when she arrived, she took Cody first because he's the bigger out of the two. So she took him out and she started to clip him.
So you were going to have 2 dogs groomed?
Yes.
What's the name of the dog that was injured?
Cody.
Okay, so she took Cody out.
So 45 minutes went by, and then she'd come in and told me her water ran out. She has no water. Her pipes were froze up in her van. So I took Cody, and she took Midget, our second dog. Well, I rinsed off Cody. As soon as she handed me Cody, I noticed there was a red spot above on his head. I didn't realize there was nicks and stuff on his ears or his neck. So I took him in, and I bathed him in warm water, brought him back out, and I noticed it was really, really red.
How long did that take you?
To wash him?
You just rinsed them off.
I just rinsed them off.
How long did it take?
5 minutes, maybe.
And then you went outside, and she's working on Midget?
Yes.
Did you stop her? That's not an answer. Did you stop her from working on Midget?
No, I did not, because
Why not?
Because she was almost ready to have puppies. We needed her groomed.
Just a minute.
Okay.
You just told me that you had your dog.
Right.
That you rinsed off.
Right.
And you saw red spots that were very bad.
Right.
Now, you went outside, and clearly she could not have more than just begun to work on your other dog, because you said that she was gone for 45 minutes with Cody.
Right.
So this was 5 minutes later. I don't understand why you wouldn't have stopped her right away.
We needed the Midget groomed. It was right before the weekend, and there's no other person that would be able to get her in there.
What about your sister-in-law? Who shaved? Don't speak. I'm not speaking to you. What about your sister-in-law? Is it your sister?
Yeah, it's my sister.
Why couldn't she shave the dog down?
Because she didn't have the time to shave her down. That's why I let her cut her.
Keep going.
After she done groomed her, I called my wife and let my wife know that, well, in the process while she was grooming her, I called my wife. My wife rushed home to look up our mail.
You mean while Miss Peck was grooming the female who was about to have puppies, and very valuable, because I assume that you sell these puppies, you called your wife and you say, this is an emergency, you better come home and look at the mail.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then when she showed up, she went out and informed Miss Peck that she was about to have puppies.
Well, she must have known she was about to have puppies.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Go ahead.
She finished grooming her, and Sunday we took Cody into the vet, emergency vet, because of the injuries on his head.
Now, I'd like to see the veterinarian's reports. Do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Very hard to read this.
It is a copy. The original is in the district court in Spokane.
Well, I can read scabbing something on left ear. Puncture wounds evident. Puncture wounds.
We have pictures.
Puncture wounds evident with a question mark. Then there's something about something oozing scabs, also with a question mark. Now I'll take a look at the pictures. Okay.
I do have the 4 pictures.
These are your only 2 dogs, is that correct?
Yes.
The other dog was okay. Okay. Have you seen the pictures of the dog?
Could I look at them and see
Yes.
if they are the same pictures that I've seen? I believe Mrs. Peck has all the way up to the September 10th picture. Thank you.
What happened to the puppies?
Sold them.
They were sold.
How many did Midget have?
She had 6, but 1 had died.
Okay, I'll hear you.
I'm an experienced groomer. I have 17 years training, setting other people up for their own mobile businesses. I know what clipper burn looks like, and this was not clipper burn.
What was it?
In my opinion, and the opinion of those professionals that I was able to elicit opinions from, including the original treating vet, whose medical report you have. I have a medical assessment from him as well.
I'd like to read that.
I highlighted the part where he references that he does not believe that it is attributable to clipper burn.
Oh, I'd like to see that, please. Is the veterinarian that you took your dog to, Michael?
No.
Who was it?
I took Cody to pet emergency, and then our vet, Claus and Paws, Dr. Peck, came to our house.
Just a second, I'm not talking about that. You mean this doctor who's sending this report, who said that he examined your dog on the 16th of January at the pet emergency clinic, is committing perjury?
That was the first one.
He's the one from pet emergency.
Right, and the doctor from pet emergency says that the lesions that were found on the dog were inconsistent with clipper burn and more consistent with a deep pyoderma, a skin infection, an inflammation that predated this grooming.
He did say it was a deep pyoderma, but that was not prior. That's what is on.
Well, you don't know that because the dog hadn't been clipped. You don't know that at all.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you took one of your children into a pediatrician and the child came out with a black eye, would you bring your other child there because he needed his vaccination?
No.
Why not? He needed his vaccination. You were there already.
And later today,
Taking a girlfriend there would...
Peck caused their dog Cody to be razor burned. Sherry is countersuing for defamation of character, lost wages, and vet fees.
This is the expert testimony that says that this is not a result of clipper burn. It was a result of pre-existing condition that went unnoticed because you hadn't had your dog groomed in a very long time.
My dog is a hands-on dog. He's constantly in my lap, and I constantly pet him. I would know if he had an injury to his head or anything. I would not have let that go if I knew my dog had an injury.
Well, what I'm telling you is this is what the expert says who examined your dog on the 16th.
Okay, he did not tell me that. I did not receive a letter like that from him. I just have the
please
vet record.
And I'd like to see what else she has.
This is a letter from their treating vet, from the mobile vet who saw the dog also. She indicates that that
Just
dog...
a second. Hey, would you just let them read this? I don't know if they've seen this letter.
I have a third medical assessment from a veterinarian who was not allowed to see the vet. I'd offered the worst to have a second opinion on the animal because when they called me and told me that I had clipper burned their dog, I could not imagine in any way that that could have happened because I am an experienced groomer. I train people not to clipper burn dogs.
Well, sometimes that happens.
It happens?
Sometimes, Ms. Peck, it does happen.
And that's exactly why...
One of my problems, I'm not reading something from an experienced vet who did not examine the dog. What I have, Mr. Worth, is a problem first with, if you saw that I own two dogs that I'm very attached to, as I'm sure you're attached to yours.
Yeah, very much attached.
And if I had one of the dogs at a groomer and they returned that dog to me and I saw burn marks on the dog, I would go in and I would remove the second dog immediately. I would not let somebody continue to work on it. I mean, if you love your pets, that's not what you do. How many children do you have?
4.
If you took one of your children into a pediatrician and the child came out with a black eye, would you bring your other child there because he needed his vaccination?
No.
Why not? He needed his vaccination. You were there already.
Because my first kid got a black eye.
Right. So if you believed that she caused this kind of serious injury to your dog, then you go and get the other one who was, aside from a loving pet, is a valuable dog. She's going to have puppies. How much did you sell the puppies for?
$400.
Each?
Yes.
So you made a couple of $1,000?
Yes.
I wouldn't have let somebody that I had no confidence in treat my second child.
Right.
You did. And according to you, if I believe you, which I'm not so sure about, you called your wife while she's working on the pregnant one and said, you better come home right away, instead of taking the dog out of her care. Well, I'm not sure.
She was in mid-cut. I wasn't going to pull her out.
Listen to me. She wasn't in mid-cut according to your timeline, sir. Time is something I know. You say the first dog was in there for 45 minutes.
Right.
The second dog was in there for 5 minutes. So that's not in the middle of a clip, right?
Right.
Okay. So the vet says that this is probably not the result of clipper burn. And sometimes dogs get irritations. And sometimes when they have very long hair, you don't see it. So I have to determine whether you've met your burden in demonstrating to me that she's the one who caused this problem. Your own vet that you took the dog to the first time says she was not. How do you resolve that?
We didn't, when doctor came to our house, it wasn't to find out whether or not it was clipper burns or not. It was because I felt that he was not healing properly. It was still kind of infected. After I followed all the medications from Pet Emergency.
It was infected?
Yes.
She groomed your other dog, Midget, with the same equipment, right?
Correct.
No infection?
No.
No problem?
No. But as on one of those pictures, it will show on the top of his head a scarring right here. That is the same length and width as a clipper, which when Dr.
Listen to me. It could have been as a result of the clipper burn from your sister-in-law in July.
Tina and Eric Worth claim mobile dog groomer Sherry Peck caused their dog Cody to be razor burned. Sherry is countersuing for defamation of character, lost wages, and vet fees.
You prepared your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's your counterclaim, really?
Yes.
That it took you a lot of time, a lot of energy, etc.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what you have to do. That's what lawsuits are about. They honestly believe, I think, that you were responsible. I don't necessarily believe that that's true, based upon the evidence that you've put forward, which you prepared for this case, and based upon the fact that a non-professional had been the last person to groom this dog, who, according to them, shaved him down, so that he didn't have to be groomed for a very long time, something that certainly I wouldn't have done to a dog that I cared about.
He does have really long hair and it gets matted. And so once a year we do have him in a field cut.
That is just fine. And if you do that, you have somebody who's a professional do it, not your sister-in-law. Case is dismissed. That's all.
19-year-old Crystal Taylor is suing her ex-boyfriend, David Walter, for a $500 loan. David says he's done a lot for Crystal, and they're even.
Ms. Taylor, the defendant was your boyfriend. According to you, you made a loan to him in the amount of $500. Mr. Walter acknowledges you gave him $500. He said it was very nice of you. It was a gift. You are no longer together. You want your money. When were you together?
We started dating in the beginning of March of this year, and we officially broke up in the end of July, but we were pretty much over in the beginning of July.
And when did you make this loan?
Almost exactly a month after we had started dating.
In April?
Yes.
Tell me about the circumstances surrounding it.
He had taken his ex, which is the mother of his child, to court. She wasn't allowing him to see his son. So I went with him to court. I was April 6th exactly.
That's not a smart thing to do.
He had asked me to go, so I went with him.
It's not a smart thing for him to ask you to go.
I guess not. So we had gone, and while we were there, he had
Why did you ask her to go to court with you?
I wanted somebody to go to court with me. I had nobody to go to court with me.
Taking a girlfriend there when you're going for a visitation is not a very smart thing.
I realized that afterwards.
I didn't even know that there was a scene in court. Was there a scene?
No, there wasn't really a scene.
Was there unpleasantness?
There was unpleasantness, correct.
Are you an only child?
Me? No.
Do you have siblings who live in the area?
Yes.
You have parents?
Not exactly.
But you have siblings?
Correct.
Take your sister.
I asked and she couldn't get the day off. I tried to get somebody else to go with me besides Crystal at the time.
She wasn't there when you made the baby, was she?
No.
You didn't need anybody to hold your hand when you made the baby, did you?
No.
What did you need somebody to go to court with you for?
I was just nervous, that's all.
What did you need this money for?
I needed it to pay some back taxes and to re-register a truck because my truck was in my ex's name. She canceled all the insurance, registration, everything. Just to get it from a friend, and I would pay it back, and she insisted she would give it to me. So therefore...
So you were going to get it from a friend and pay your friend back?
Yeah. And then we discussed that it was a gift because I spent numerous amounts of money on her as well.
Like what?
I bought her a watch. I bought her diamond earrings. We went out to dinner all the time. I gave her gas money when needed. She, we moved in together.
Okay. Now, did he buy you presents?
Yes, he bought me gifts.
Did you buy him gifts?
Yes, I did.
Tell me what you bought him.
I bought him a bracelet for his birthday.
And?
There were times that we went out to eat that I paid for stuff. So it was pretty equal, and he never once gave me gas money. He took my car to work, and there was no gas put in it.
When you gave him this $500, when did you tell him you wanted him to pay you back?
Well, originally we had the conversation right after court that he said that he did have someone he could borrow money from but didn't want to. He told me he hated the fact that he was borrowing the money from me, but he would definitely pay it back. And I made it perfectly clear I needed it ASAP. And
what'd you need it ASAP for?
Because of the fact that I was taking it out of in a bank account that military money was being put into, and I was trying to go to school, and I would need that money for college because the Army in the reserves doesn't pay for all of your college.
How come the Army was putting money into your account?
I was getting paid for going to drill and doing, well, exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
You say in your complaint that we agreed that once he caught up with his child support and other bills, he would begin paying me back. That doesn't sound like you agreed that he was going to pay you back ASAP.
He said he would pay me as soon as possible. The court, when we went to court, said that they were going to be taking some back child support along with the current child support out of his paycheck. And he had told my mom that he planned on giving me money the first week or two after that because he gets paid more than he said he got paid.
So what happened?
We actually got into many fights after that about the fact that he said I kept bringing the money up in front of everyone all the time, that I needed it back. And we got into numerous fights about that. He's talked to my mother about wanting to pay me back but not having the money right then, and he wished he could.
Is that right, sir?
No. I consider it as a gift.
I don't care what you consider.
Okay.
That's not what I'm asking you, Mr. Walter.
I don't recall having any conversations with her mother about it.
Did you have arguments with her about the money?
We definitely got in arguments about the money.
About this money?
This money and other money.
I don't care about the other money, Mr. Walter. Don't play with me.
This money, yes.
And were the arguments about this money when you were going to start to give her money?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pay your bills. That's all.
All these other excuses, may step out. Now, this is case number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Cahey versus Cahey. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, folks.
The defendant was your stepmother.
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
For nearly 18 years.
Did you ever live together?
Yes, ma'am. We have lived together numerous times. At the age of 12, I was taken away from my mother by Child Protective Services and placed with my stepmother and my father at the age of 14.
And you stayed there until when?
Approximately about 6 months after I was placed there, I was pretty much given the ultimatum to either marry or to go.
How long did you stay there?
About 6 months, ma'am.
Did you ever stay there after you left?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
When?
When I had my son, and then again after I had my daughter.
So you had 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went back to live with your father and stepmother?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is your claim. You were arrested recently for identity theft.
Yes, ma'am.
Because your name is Lisa, your stepmother's name is Elisa, and somehow, according to your stepmother, her credit has been ruined because your 2 accounts somehow got confused. We're not sure how that happened yet, but she reported to the police that she believed she was a victim of identity theft by you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And subsequently, you were arrested.
Yes,
you want to be compensated for what you consider that false arrest. Elisa says she did what she had to do by reporting this potential identity theft to the police when she found out how it happened, and they just followed up on her report that she was the victim of identity theft, which ruined her credit. And she is counterclaiming because she says that she believes that you probably did purposefully ruin her credit by credit cards, etc., using them and then not paying for them. Now, Mrs. Kay, are you still married to her father?
No, I'm not.
When did you divorce?
December 18 of 2001.
And when did you ascertain that you were the victim of identity theft?
About July of 2004.
How did that come about?
I went to apply for a personal loan to fix my car. I believed I should have been able to get it, but the banker told me that because of bad credit and items showing up on my credit report, I could not get it.
Were you told what bad credit it was alleged that you had?
They showed it to me and gave me the pages free that they could give me.
What were they for, credit cards?
No, later I found there appeared to be all medical bills.
All medical bills? Do you have those pages?
I brought several that show beginning to end of all the ones I had gotten and what I've been doing. Highlighted what is mine and what's not.
The bills that are outlined in pink are not yours.
Uh-huh.
Who lived at Austin Street in Texas?
I did, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever live there?
No, ma'am. My ex-husband did.
What's your social security number?
45295.
And what's your social security number?
5581.
May I speak, Your Honor?
Yes.
I also have my credit report, which has medical bills that were in question about whether they were mine or not, and I did call the credit bureau to further investigate that and have not heard an answer back.
Well, some of these medical bills are clearly yours.
And I have her name appears on my credit bureau as well.
When you go to a hospital to take an MRI, you had one of those, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they were pretty expensive.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to fill out a form. Did you ever fill out her information?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Well, how would they get her information? You have to fill out your date of birth. Your date of births aren't the same.
I don't know. I have never used her information or her name. This problem has been going on. I have a piece of mail which, when she moved, it was forwarded. My mail was forwarded to her address. Our names have been mixed up with the post office as well as the credit bureau. I also have a prescription which I went down and got a prescription filled recently. When I went in, they asked me, are you the stepdaughter or the stepmother? And I said, I'm the stepdaughter. And they have that printed out on this information sheet that I have.
That's interesting, but it's hearsay. There isn't a question in my mind that your credit has been ruined, at least temporarily, because of this confusion. When did you go to the police to report it?
After I'd made calls to what was showing up on my credit report, I located numbers by calling information, calling them, getting hold of them, asking them whose name was on there. I have this on my credit report, and I feel I have the right to know whose it is so I can do something about it. And they said, well, are you Lisa Cahey? I said, no, I'm Elisa Cahey. And they asked for my Social Security. I gave it to them. And they said, that's not yours. I did have an old copy of her birth certificate and Social Security at home that I had forgotten I had that was put away in the back of my box. I asked them if that was the number. And they said, well, I'm not allowed to give that information. To me, I feel that's legitimate to say that it was hers. And I continued to call, making all these calls.
So what you're saying is that if your stepdaughter went into a facility, filled out the information, and gave them her Social Security number.
Yeah.
She didn't give them yours. She gave them hers.
Mm-hmm.
And her information and her address. But when they went looking for payment, they couldn't get it from her. Your name popped up.
Not only on my credit report, I have collection letters that have come to my addresses, which she has not lived at.
I understand that, but it would be possible to get your address if they popped in your name, Lisa Cahey, also known as Elisa Cahey. I don't know whether or not she used your credit, but I certainly think that you had the right to assume that she did when you made the report. Do you have a copy of the report that you went to the police with? Okay. Well, this is very telling.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I spent the night in
Says her stepmother, Alyssa Cahey, had her falsely arrested for stealing her identity. Alyssa is countersuing, claiming Lisa ruined her credit.
This is your statement that you gave to the police, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you say, Miss Cahey, is that the problem continued to exist even when you moved.
Yes, it did.
Is that right? And your stepdaughter didn't have your new address.
No.
So somehow the people who were advancing credit to her tracked you down even though she didn't give them that information, right?
I don't know if she did or not.
Well, you said in your report that you hadn't given her your new
I
address.
have collection letters that show my address.
Correct. But it is possible that since she did not use your Social Security number, she used her own Social Security number.
They can't give me that. Yes or
You
no?
don't have any information, even in the material that you gave me, that she used your Social Security number.
Because I can't get it. The HIPAA laws don't allow me to.
So you don't have any information that you gave me that she was using your Social Security number. You even say it in the past here. In the past, other collections made by this person has been put on my credit reports, not using my Social Security number.
That's what they were telling me. My address was used.
Listen to me. Your address was either used or found by the people she owed money to. And clearly you owed money to people, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you owe?
Your Honor, I'm not sure on how much money I did owe. And in fact, I do think some of the medical bills that she is saying are on her credit that are mine. I don't recall the MRI that it says that I had. I think I had some of that medical treatment while I was in her and my father's care.
How old are you?
I'm 27 now.
Let us assume that at least some of this that appears on her credit are your bills.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that she had you falsely arrested.
Right.
I mean, unless you are prepared to demonstrate to me why she would maliciously, knowing that it wasn't true, have you arrested, you have no case. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any proof that she maliciously, and without any proof, created a report of identity theft to the police?
I don't know why she went to the police. I know she and I have both been frustrated over the years with the mix-up with our names being so similar. And I have a brother who was not able to be here and didn't really want to be here, who told me that she went to
You can't tell me anything that your brother said to you because he's not here.
Okay.
And that's hearsay. But you just said something that was really interesting. You said for years there's been confusion about our two names. About what kinds of things?
At one point in time, we both lived next door to each other. Every time one of us would move from one address to the other, if I went to put in a change of address, the mail would just start automatically be forwarded to her. My mail would go to her. At this time, my mail is still going to her.
So the post office caused the confusion, not you, because you put in the right papers, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You put in the right papers, and the mail still went to the wrong location.
Yes, ma'am.
So it was the postal authority that got it wrong,
yes,
right?
ma'am.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I do, but can I say something?
Just a second. So it's possible that this wasn't a case of identity theft, but a series of mishaps by credit bureaus that caused you all this trouble.
I don't know, just so much of it.
There's a lot of it because when somebody is owed money, they're going to try to find somebody to collect from. And Elisa and Lisa are pretty similar, especially if you both had the same address. At least at one point, probably more. According to you, you lived with your stepmother and father at least 3 times.
Yes, ma'am.
For 6 months, and then when your first child was born, and later when your second child was born. So there was a time when you lived together. Now, in order to be able to demonstrate that somebody has had you falsely arrested, you have to show that they knowingly made a report to the police that was false. I don't think she did that.
I have 3 collection letters which she gave to my dad and my dad brought home to me, and one of them is a phone bill which went to her house at her address that was gotten with the telephone company in my name, my Social Security number, and I had called to check on that, and it was in my Social Security number. And then I also have 2 collection letters which are medical bills with my son's name on them, who my son had surgery, that also went to her house.
So?
I mean,
and your point would be?
I spent the night in jail because she went and told the police that I had never lived with her and that she was getting collection letters that weren't hers. She was getting the collection letters that weren't hers because the mail was confusing us and she was getting my mail.
It wasn't just getting your mail. They were putting your outstanding debt on her credit report. In order to have that stop, she has to report it to the police. She has to be able to go to the credit card companies and the hospitals and the doctors and say, listen, I filed a report. This is not a scheme to defraud you. This is a monumental mistake. But she has to be able to demonstrate that there's some basis for her to say it was a mistake. She went to the police, she filed a report, and she said, I believe that I'm the victim of identity theft, that somebody is using my name. I don't think she did that maliciously.
Lisa Cahey claims stepmother Alyssa Cahey falsely accused her of stealing her Social Security number.
Had she tried to contact you before she went to the police?
No, she
How
didn't.
come?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Well, tell
I
me
gave
about
her
it.
dad the letters to give to her because I don't see her. He took the letters to her, and I said, tell her to take care of them before they get on my credit report, or I will have to contact the police
And these
get
are
it
the
cleared
3
off.
letters she's talking about.
Did you pay those bills?
My son has insurance.
Did you pay the bills?
No, I did not.
Well, that's a problem. Why didn't you pay the bills?
Because my son had insurance and I had to call them for them to file a claim with his insurance.
Well, only one of those bills, according to you, is for your son.
There's 2 bills.
2 bills. Were they paid by your insurance?
Yes.
Show me.
I don't have any proof that they paid them. And I also went to her after my dad gave me these 3 letters. I went to her and I told her, I said, you know, I'm sorry that you're getting my mail again. Let's go to the post office and together to see if we can straighten this out.
Well, did you call these people and tell them that they sent the bills to the wrong
Yes, I
place?
did.
Show me the letter that you sent to them and said you're sending the bills to the wrong place. I am not Alyssa Cahey. I am Lisa Cahey. You're sending these bills to the wrong place. Please don't do that. And you do that in writing, just like you send out an insurance form. Do you have that?
No. but I do have where I talked to the credit bureau and had a fraud alert put on my credit so that they would have to contact me.
I'm asking you a simple question. Those bills came to her. She saw to it that you got them. You did not pay them. All you have to do is demonstrate to me that you did the right thing, which was send a letter to those people and say, you want to dun somebody for money? Dun me. This is my address. That's not the person whose credit should be encumbered by my debt. And you didn't do that.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
I have a record from the courthouse showing that she had been arrested prior time for a phone deal that she pleaded guilty to, along with a copy of the warrant where she was arrested.
I don't need to see that.
Okay.
So she has no case, because I don't believe that you maliciously went to the police. I believe that you had to stop the problem, and the police even have a form for it. It's not as if they don't have a form for it, because this thing happens all the time. They have a form called ID theft affidavit, and they have to take down specific information in order for the bills to stop building up. They have to take the report.
I also went to the police, Your Honor.
Before or after she did?
I went before and after.
Well, show me.
This is... I also appeared in court, in criminal court, 3 times, and my case was dismissed in criminal court.
You're talking about with regard to this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
No, I believe that there probably is insufficient proof that you, beyond a reasonable doubt, or even by a preponderance of the evidence, at least she has no proof that you did that, knowingly falsified her information in order to get goods and services using her identity, which is identity theft. But I think that she had reason to believe, based upon everything that she saw on the credit report, that you were doing it, and she had to stop it. There were things that you could have done and taken a proactive course. Notify those people in writing. Please do not send any bills to my former stepmother. She is not the person who is responsible for these bills. I can do that. So you have no case against your stepmother for falsely having you arrested. And I don't believe, Ms. Cahey, that you have a case against her for identity theft, because I think there might be a legitimate, innocent explanation. And I say might be, a legitimate explanation as to how these organizations got your identities confused, just like the post office did, when each of you put in a change of address and you were still getting each other's mail.
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I called one of the doctors and hospitals, like
you can't tell me what they said to you. That's hearsay. You have something in writing?
They won't give it to me because of HIPAA laws. They don't allow me to have anything.
That does
she
not...
put me down as the responsible party on the Lake Point Hospital bill.
Listen to me. All I need is something in writing. You cannot tell me something that happened over the phone or something somebody said to you, because that's hearsay, and it's not admissible for a reason. It's not admissible because I, who am a trained lawyer, can ask questions to test the truthfulness of what statement is being offered. That's why we exclude hearsay. Certain kinds of hearsay you admit. You admit a police report because it's a business record. But you cannot admit things that people say to you because they can't be tested in court. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Did you get it straightened out?
Not yet, no.
Well, I can't straighten it out for you.
On my credit report, Your Honor, her name appears on my credit report as Elisa Green Cahey, which Green is her maiden name.
I wish you good luck at straightening it out. It's a horrible situation. It's a horrible problem that exists between the two of you, at least in part because of the similarity of your names. People are the victims of identity theft all the time when they have no relation to each other at all. And it's a horrible situation. And you're going to build mounds of paperwork, and I don't know if you're going to get any satisfaction. I certainly can't help you with this lawsuit, which is for false arrest by you and for identity theft by you, because I don't think either one of you can demonstrate to my satisfaction that this was done willfully and maliciously. Claim and counterclaim are dismissed.
Step out.
I was born Cahey. She got the...
2:45 on the calendar in the matter of Crump versus Griffin. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ladies.
Mr. Crump, it is your allegation in this complaint that the defendant, who was a girlfriend of yours at one point, had you falsely arrested for domestic violence.
That's correct.
The charges were subsequently dismissed.
That's correct.
And you wanted to pay for your lawyer's fees, punitive damages, and your lost wages.
That's correct.
Ms. Griffin said that you were out of control on this particular day. She had every right to call the police. So the ball is in your court. You're going to tell me first the date of this incident.
The date of this incident happened July 21st. And it started earlier on the 20th. Me and Marquise had an argument.
That's Marquise?
Yes, because he had found out that I was pregnant by my ex. He had left my house. I had called him
later. You would live
on.
together?
No. I was at my house. He had left my house. I tried to call him, could not get through to him. Finally, he called me back. We had an argument over the phone.
What was the argument about?
You lied to me. You know, you told me that you were with him, and then now...
That sort of
thing. He hung up the phone with me. I was upset. My car wasn't working, so I walked to my friend Shannon's house, who she is a witness in the red. I walked to her house. I was in tears. I just found out I was pregnant, which was a Saturday before. She's like, Aaron, what you need to do is you need to just come clean. You need to tell Julie, because me and Julie became friends.
Julie is?
Julie is his so-called roommate.
Julie?
Yes. Yes.
You have to tell Julie. What do you have to tell Julie?
Basically what was going on, because he was lying to both of us. He was telling me she is just a roommate. They don't do anything together. They don't sleep in the same room. had everybody fooled. In the long run, I became friends with her, and she's telling me they do sleep in the same bed every night, and they've been for 4 years. So basically, he's been playing the both of us. So my friend Shannon had... My friend Shannon had told me to be the better woman, let him ruin that household and not me. So I had walked over to Shannon. She was on her porch, Julie.
How far does Shannon live from Julie?
Right across the street.
So you went over to her house, and she said to you, go and tell her...
She said it would be in your best
interest.
interest.
Right. She told you to go and tell her that her alleged boyfriend / roommate was two-timing her.
Exactly.
Okay. Did you do that?
Julie was on her porch when I was walking, and she'd asked me what was wrong, so I was all upset, and I walked in Shannon's house. Shannon met me at the door. We went upstairs. I told her everything that happened. She's like, you need to just tell Julie. So I called Julie on the phone, and she's like, tell me. I said, I think you should come over here. I told her everything that she did not know. She knew a little bit because she did have Marquise's passcode to his phone and was listening to messages, and that's how she put 2 and 2 together. I told her everything. She couldn't get a hold of him on the phone. She kept calling him. Finally, he called back. She talked to him. He told her basically some of the truth.
Whatever. Were you on the phone? Did you listen to her?
I was right in front of her.
You were right there. Okay.
At that point...
Just a second. Marquise.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I take care of elderly people, transporting them to doctor's appointments, surgery.
Is that a full-time job?
Yes. Yes,
I
ma'am.
think you need another job. Keep your social life simpler. Do you know what I'm talking about, Marquise? How to keep your social life simple. Things get complicated. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Because if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Well, ma'am, I do tell the truth.
Which one of these ladies were you telling the truth to?
Well, actually, I was lying to one of them, and the one I was staying with, I was telling the truth to.
You were lying to her?
Yes.
But not to her. So what you're telling me is that you told her about her.
Well, she already knew about her.
No, I didn't ask you what you knew. I'm asking you, did you tell her, Julie,
yes,
about Miss Griffin?
Yes.
From the beginning?
No.
So then you lied to her?
That's correct.
So then you lied to both of them?
At the present time, that's correct.
See how easy that was?
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Listen, now I get the background. The background is you got 1 prize and 2 potential prize winners. Let's get to July 21st. So now you've told Marquise's girlfriend that Marquise is a bum.
Basically.
Let's move on.
Okay. This is all rolling into the 21st.
Roll into it.
Okay. At the time, I had gotten on the phone with him, and we had arguments, screaming back and forth at each other, and he was on his way home, and he was saying, well,
what were you screaming at him for? While you were dating him...
Lying.
Listen to me. While you were dating him, you were clearly dating somebody else.
Right.
Because you don't get pregnant from sitting on a bad potty.
Right.
You know, those stories don't wash anymore.
Well, me and that other person were off at that time.
I don't care. Off, on. Listen to me. While you were involved, which is the reason why he was angry initially when you told him, was because you weren't completely honest with him.
No, I was not.
So that you all sort of deserve each other. You do. And so I don't see why you wanted to get back at him. Do you work?
Yes, I do. I have 2 jobs.
3. Get to it. Tell me how we went out of control.
Well, we had argued, and we brought it basically over the phone, went to outside. Me, Shannon, and Amanda at the time, who she also was there. She came as I was telling Julie. We were all sitting on her porch. We had arguments about the whole situation, and he walked away. As he walked away, we were both saying things back and forth to each other from house to house, basically. Now, this is into the 21st. It's about probably 2.
I got it.
Then from there, he said, well, if you're a woman about it, come over here. So I walked over to the middle of the street, the knock on her property, and I was saying things back and forth. He had the nerve to talk about my children, who had nothing to do with it. Screamed out to me about me taking care of my kids. And I said, the last thing I said to him was, you need to do is take care of you and your family, referring to Julie and his kids, because that's what he considers them. He was like, you're talking about my son, you're talking about my son. As he's coming towards me, I said, you better not come near me. I'm walking towards Shannon's house, back on her steps, and he kept going on about talking about his son, and I said, Julie, get your man. And she said, tell me you're not talking about his son. I never said his name. I said, his family, referring to you and your kids. From that point on, he was smacked me right in my arm. My phone went flying. I called the cops, told them specifically there was a big black man who hit me. I need the cops here. I am pregnant.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know that he was fooling.
Aaron Griffin had him falsely arrested for assault. Aaron says Marquise slapped his cell phone out of her hand.
Did you slap the phone out?
I slapped the phone out of her hand, Your Honor.
I want to tell you something. She started the trouble. No question about it. She even instigated it by walking out into the middle of the street. I give that to you. You can't touch her. You were angry? You can't put your hands on her. The case was dismissed because it's a whole lot of baloney. But the issue in this case is, did she have the right to call the police because you came into physical contact with her? And the answer is she had the right to do that. I really wish you hadn't, because if you hadn't put your hands on her, I would have found in your favor.
Well, Your Honor, I didn't consider the phone being, as far as me putting my hands on her. I smacked the phone. I didn't smack her. I mean, that's what I was arrested for, allegedly.
No, you just told me you slapped her hand, the phone was in her hand.
I smacked the phone.
The phone was in her hand. Put your hand down. I didn't need any help. She started the trouble. She's an instigator. Should have just let it rest. Because you had two guilty people. You sort of deserved each other. So I don't know why you're getting this lady involved for. Anyway, Mr. Crump, are you happy with Julie?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you living with him?
Been for 4 years, and she's known that.
You know that he was fooling around with somebody else while he was living with you?
Yes.
You know about her?
Yes.
You know about anybody else?
Yes.
How many others?
From, it was before we were even together.
I'm talking about in the last 4 years. Just her?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you think? Mm-hmm. Think again. Mm-hmm. Trust me. Think again. This is the one you know about. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Crump. That's all.
Burdette, step forward.
25-year-old Heather Brown is suing her neighbor, 27-year-old Angelia Burdette, for a shattered aquarium. Heather says Angelia was house-sitting at the time of the incident.
I have a claim and a counterclaim. Your claim, Miss Brown, is that you and Miss Burdette, who were friends and neighbors, I gather from your complaint, you had asked her to come in to take care of your fish tank and your house at some point. When you came back, you found that this large fish tank, which was a saltwater tank, very expensive, was broken, all the fish on the floor dead.
Right.
And the value of that, you say, was close to $5,000.
More than.
Miss Burdette says that she did come into the house to take care of, I think, your dog. She was walking your dog and left her young son in the house. When she came back, she found the fish tank destroyed, the fish on the floor. Somehow a picture, according to her, fell off the wall all by itself and broke your fish tank. And she didn't clean up the mess, left the dead fish and everything else there, because she said that the week previous to that, or 2 weeks previous to that, she went into the hospital to have a baby, and you were watching her children. You have 2 boys who were very naughty little boys. They destroyed her house while you were supposed to be babysitting for them, and you didn't clean up that mess, so she didn't clean up yours. And she is counterclaiming for the destruction her own children did in her house. That's what the case is about. Let's start with your counterclaim, because that came first. When did you go into the hospital?
4th. I was 7 months pregnant, and they had to stop my labor.
Did they?
Yes.
And how old are your boys?
I have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Do you live with their father?
No, I do not.
Who's the father of this baby?
Warren.
Where does Warren live?
He doesn't live with me either.
Is Warren the father of the 3-year-old and the 9-year-old?
No, my 9-year-old's father died. And
the 3-year-old?
Me and him are just friends. He pays his child support and he takes care of his son.
But when you went into the hospital with regard to this pregnancy, you called Miss Brown to come and help you.
Right, because she was supposed to be my friend and I trusted her.
And she has her own children?
She has 1 child, 10-year-old.
How long were you in the hospital?
Just 1 night.
What happened when you came home?
I came home to find mascara all over my walls, lip liner, lipstick, syrup poured into my carpet, a highlighter broken into my carpet. My bedroom blinds were tore up.
Who did that?
My 3-year-old, because she was supposed to be watching them, and she was outside.
How do you know it was your 3-year-old?
Because my 9-year-old wouldn't do that.
Was he in school, the 9-year-old?
He should have been.
Was he in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was watching the 3-year-old?
I was.
So how come all this mess happened?
It didn't. None of that happened. He did pour syrup on the carpets, and he got it on the upholstery of the couch. I went outside to smoke. I went outside to smoke. I was out there for probably an extended period of time, but as far as I knew, I had checked on him. He was sleeping. I checked on him every 15 minutes for an hour. Some people stopped by. I didn't want to take him into her house. It's not my place. I continued to check on him. When I came back in, he had broken the lock on the fridge. There's like a lock that she ties it. He had broken it, and pretty much a trail from the fridge to the back bedroom of syrup. When she got home, now let me explain. The blinds, the stains on the carpet, the smell, everything is already there.
Just a second. So, shh. Miss Burdette, don't say anything. I asked you a question. You answered my questions. Now I'm looking to her.
Heather Brown claims neighbor Angelia Burdette owes for a shattered aquarium. Angelia is countersuing for damage to her home caused by her own kids.
Okay. So what you say is he did get up and he did cause damage to the carpet with the syrup and some of the upholstery.
Right, and I offered to pay for it. I said, look, you know, I was supposed to be watching him. I accept responsibility. Good. I will pay for the, you know, to have the people come in and shampoo it. Oh, no, it's fine, she says.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
No, I asked her to help me pay for it. She said she would. And when I went to go collect money because I had the carpets cleaned right away, she said that she didn't have the money and she doesn't owe me anything.
Okay, just a second. She just said that she offered to pay to have the carpet cleaned. She accepted responsibility. How much did you pay to have the carpet cleaned?
The carpet cleaner, it was only $45 because I went through the company my apartments go through.
Fine.
And I have an income.
Just a second. So she's going to pay for $45. Where's $2,076?
Because my son got into the mascara and put it on my walls, and nothing really takes off that mascara. They have to
So what did you do?
They have to strip my walls.
They have to strip your walls?
Yeah, with paint thinner to get the mascara off.
That's not true.
Yeah, Miss Burdette, be a little creative. I feel you're a creative lady. Be creative.
I have the proposal from the paint company right here.
You have pictures of the walls?
Yeah.
Let me see the pictures of the walls.
She's got pictures of a cabinet.
And there's the walls. They don't show in. You have to look very closely at the wall.
Just a minute. Oh, no. He didn't do this. He didn't do that to the blinds. And this is one panel that you're showing me. Looks like a vanity.
Your Honor, there's 12 colors.
Listen to me. Shh. This looks like a panel in a vanity. Is that right?
This is the cupboard before I washed, because I tried to...
Get some white paint and paint it.
White paint won't go over. It'll just go through.
Get some paint thinner and take it off and repaint it. I don't see where $45 becomes $2,076. All right, so you have to give her $45 to shampoo the carpet.
Gladly.
That's what you spent for cleaning the carpet. It was your responsibility.
Absolutely.
When you're supposed to watch a 3-year-old, you watch a 3-year-old. You don't go outside to smoke and watch him every 15 minutes because you're just lucky that he didn't hurt himself. Because that, too, would have been your responsibility. Now let's get to your fish tank. You have pictures of the tank?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see them, please.
This is before. That's after.
How big was this tank?
It was about 6 1/4, 6 foot, 6 1/2. It's very big.
You have any of the bills for the tank?
No, it was bought years ago. I have a quote for what it would cost to replace. That's it.
Can I see that, please? How many fish did you have in the tank?
3 or 4. It was actually mostly coral, live coral, very hard to raise and maintain.
Was it a 135-gallon tank?
No. It was a 70-gallon tank.
Well, then why are you replacing it with a 135-gallon tank?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I told him 70-gallon, and that's what he mailed me.
Then this quote is twice as big as what you had.
Right. Yes, you're right.
Of course. You don't know what happened inside, is that right?
Right. My 9-year-old was...
Shh. All you know was that you went outside and left your 9-year-old inside, unsupervised.
Playing PlayStation.
Unsupervised.
Yeah.
Just like she left your 3-year-old unsupervised.
There's a difference between a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah, 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. That's a difference.
And it's somebody else's house.
Hey, listen, 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. So what you would have me believe is that when you went outside and left your 9-year-old unsupervised in the house with this attractive nuisance of a huge fish tank with fish in it, a picture which had been hanging on the wall for years, miraculously, at that moment, fell off the wall all by itself and broke the fish tank. That is your defense.
That's what my son told me.
That's your defense. Yeah. Well, your son's a liar. If you believe me, you're an idiot. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Madam, less than...
Found in the matter of Beck versus Meyer.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Beck, Mr. Meyer used to be your friend, and according to your complaint, you were arrested, unfortunately for you. And when you were arrested, you called and asked him to pick up your car for safekeeping and take it over to your parents' house.
Yes, sir.
It is your claim that while he did pick up the car, he did not return it in a timely fashion, returned it sometime later that evening, damaged the car while it was in his possession, put a move on your wife while you were in jail, and then damaged some video games or Xbox games that you would let him borrow, and he did that purposefully. Mr. Meyer says he has no clue as to what you're talking about. What were you arrested for?
I had a MIC, and it was an outstanding ticket.
What's an MIC?
Minor in consumption.
How old are you?
20. My wife is 21, and in the state of Texas, you can drink with your wife present.
Isn't that fascinating? That Texas is something. You mean you could do everything else, but you can't drink?
I guess that's how they do it.
Yes, yes. Minor in consumption.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it the first arrest you've had?
No. I've been arrested before.
For what?
Assault.
Assaulting who?
I was in a fight at a bar.
How long were you in jail in this minor in consumption?
Well, it's just a city ticket, so it was only for like 10 days. But I was on probation for the assault, and they revoked the probation because you can't drink while you're on probation.
Oh, you are one dumb dude.
I'm sorry.
How did you pick one dumb dude?
Since high school. He wasn't that dumb in high school.
You mean he's getting dumber? You mean he's getting dumber? You're in real trouble.
Hopefully by the time I'm 40, I'm still competent.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right, so you were arrested and your probation was revoked. Oh, Mr. Beck. When did you call Mr. Meyer to come and get your car?
I called him from the city jail.
And what time did you get to the jail?
I didn't actually go to the jail.
Who went to the jail?
Nobody needed to. My keys were still at the house.
Why did he have to go and get your car?
Because she can't drive a stick.
And it was parked on the street?
It was parked, yeah.
Okay, she had the keys, you went to the house, you picked up the car.
Yeah.
What time did you pick up the car?
It was
Ms. Beck.
sometime in the morning. I don't really remember when.
What time did he get to the house?
I guess it was around 6.
In the morning?
No, in afternoon, evening.
He got to the house in the evening, at 6 p.m., is that right?
That could be right.
And what time did you drop the car off at Mr. Beck's parents?
I actually later on that night gave it to my wife to take over to his parents' house.
What time?
11 maybe.
And where was the car between 6 and 11?
I just had to run some errands. He said I could drive it, so I just used it for a little bit.
Well, that's 5 hours.
Yeah, he said I could use it.
Fine,
so.
but I just want to know where you went for 5 hours.
I actually don't remember.
Well, let's try to think about it. You knew you were coming to court today.
I think I went up to my store. I own a restaurant. I went up to my restaurant, did some work there, and I think after that I brought it back to my house.
And then your wife eventually took it to his parents.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Beck, what happened when Mr. Mayer came by and picked up the keys to the car?
I was...
Look at me.
Yes, ma'am. I was in the back bedroom. We were smoking a cigarette. We have a smoke room. We don't smoke in the rest of the house. And I was in the smoke room.
With whom?
With his wife and our ex-roommate. And I was looking out the window. He comes walking. He bends down like he's going to tie his shoelace. And when he stands back up, he kicks the passenger side. And then he walks around the car, gets in the car. He's doing burnouts and squealing the tires. And as he was leaving the parking lot, he actually almost got hit.
Well, why was he doing that?
Well, I was very upset with him for getting arrested for, being
You were
dumb.
upset with your husband?
Yes, I was very.
And?
He was trying to be on my side, trying to console me, and he was very angry also, because I was upset.
I see. So he was angry that you were upset.
Yes, ma'am.
That your husband was being pretty stupid.
Because we had bills that we needed to pay, and he wasn't working. And
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
One.
How old?
3.
How long did you stay in jail?
70 days.
You weren't upset when you saw him take it out on his car, were
Well,
you?
it's my property, too. I'm mad at him, but I wouldn't want something that we would have to pay for to get fixed.
What kind of car do you have, Mr. Beck?
I have a 1998 Volkswagen Jetta VR6.
Did you do that, Mr. Mayer?
No, I didn't. When he got arrested, he got mad and threw stuff around the house, and that's what made me mad.
You all live together?
No, but it really upset her and their roommate as well. So I just went and got the car, and that's about all that happened. I didn't kick any car or anything like that.
I have pictures of the damage if you'd like to see
I'd like
this.
to see it.
All right.
I never did anything to his car. I just took it home. I went up to my store and did some stuff I had to do, and then I let my wife drop it off.
You mean this big dent in the door?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many cars do you have in the family?
2.
Is this the one you drive?
Yes.
You have a male roommate or a female roommate?
We had a male roommate.
When did the male roommate leave?
I kicked him out, I guess, right after he
December 14th.
So you were out of jail?
Yes.
And this car is registered in whose name?
It's my father's, because I didn't have good enough credit to get a car.
So the car isn't yours?
I guess it is. I make all the payments, and I'm on the loan, but
His dad
my
had
father's the
co-sign
main
for
signer
it.
on the loan.
Yeah, but the car is not titled in your name.
No.
Did you file a police report?
Yes.
Can I see it, please? Who filed the report?
My father did when I was in jail.
What about you, Miss Beck? You didn't file the police report?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I had other issues I had to deal with, and when he got out of jail, I figured he'd take... Well, they were friends, so I figured I'd let him handle it.
Let's get to the video games.
Before I had gone to jail, Trevor asked to borrow my Xbox game system, and when he returned it to me after I returned from jail, the games were scratched, the Xbox won't read games or anything.
There were a lot of people in my house who used it. It worked fine the last time I used it.
How much does that cost?
$300.
And the games?
Like $50 a piece.
How many games were there?
8. And if you'd like me to show you the damage on them, I can.
I would.
All right.
Well, this is purposeful, isn't
Yes.
it? I mean, this isn't the design of the disc, is it?
Nope.
No. Somebody did that purposely.
Yes.
It may not have been you. You borrowed it, right?
Yeah.
You're responsible. Not so for the car, because I can think of other scenarios how your car got dented.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know that
Says former friend Trevor Meyer damaged his VW Jetta by kicking it and stabbed his Xbox with a knife.
Now, it doesn't make sense that Mr. Mayer would do you a favor and at the same time destroy your property. Makes more sense to me that your wife gave the car a good crack.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
You weren't there, but he says he didn't do it. And it just something doesn't ring true to me that if you called him to go and pick up the car and he went to the house, and even if he was annoyed with you, he would have said to you, I'm not going to help you. Let your parents go pick up your car. I'm really annoyed at you. I'm really angry that you're leaving your wife and your baby in this kind of lurch. I'm not helping you. But why in the world would he go over there to help you and then damage your car?
Because he was trying to, trying to get with my wife, and she was telling him no and all this.
I believe he was trying to impress me because I was mad at him.
You think he was trying to impress you. You were sitting in the back smoking a cigarette with his wife, and he was trying to impress you.
We've known each other for 10 years. He's always done that.
And we've always had a little rivalry going.
No, that's all right.
And my car is
That's all
better
right.
than
What I'm telling you, Mr. Beck, is it makes more sense that your wife was angry with you and went outside and dented your car.
Well, it's my property also. I have to make.
It's not your property. It belongs to his father.
But I have to help, pay for it. If Trevor doesn't admit that he did that.
You know that I actually know people who will break items in their house when they're angry, even though they've purchased them themselves. I really know people like that intimately. Get good and angry at somebody, take a dish, fling it, take a good piece of china and say, try this on for size.
Well, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that?
No, ma'am. I try not.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yes.
You certainly have more of a reason to do it than he does. So I'm not comfortable with the fact of calling him a liar and saying, you damaged the car like this. Mr. Beck, I don't know who did it, but he certainly is responsible for the property that he borrowed to return it in the same condition that he borrowed it. And for that, he's got to pay $700, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I saw him.
All parties in the matter of Hernandez versus Dominguez. Step forward.
Arturo Art Hernandez is suing his former friend, Rosa Rosie Dominguez, for the return of money he paid for a van and car repair costs.
What's your first name?
Ruben Dominguez. Oh,
All right. Your mother went to jail.
yes, ma'am.
What did she go to jail for?
DUI?
And while your mother was in jail, you sold her truck to this man.
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you sell the truck for?
800. I haven't received that.
How much did you receive, Ruben? Don't speak. He's going to speak to me because if he doesn't tell me the truth, I'm going to wipe up the floor with him. How much did you sell it for?
I've received $730.
That's right. I knew we were going to get along just fine, Ruben. Not $150, but he actually gave you $730,
Yes,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the money, Ruben?
I used it for rent, Your Honor.
Who was living in the house?
It's my mom's apartment. I stay there.
Who?
No, my siblings also.
Your siblings. Well, how many siblings do you have?
2 sisters and a little brother.
And you were taking care of them while your mother was in jail?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did what you had to do to sell the car to get money because your mother didn't leave any money when she went to jail.
At the time, I didn't know the plaintiff, Art, so can come by one
Listen
day.
to me. You were 17 years old. You sold him the car. You took $730 of his money. And then when your mother got out of jail, she took back the car. Right?
Yes.
Did you give him back his $730? Is not an answer.
I offered to give him the money that he gave to Ruben.
How much did you offer to give him?
$730.
Did she ever offer to give you $730?
No, Your Honor.
No way. So far, Mr. Hernandez, $730 is on your end. The rest of your lawsuit is for car repairs.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you have the car?
I had it since January 5th to January 17th.
Between the 5th and the 17th, how much money did you put into the car?
Right here on one bill it says $399.
Let me see. Okay, $399. What else?
I cleaned the inside of the car too.
Let me see it.
I put tires. Here, I already got this.
You put new tires on?
Used tires.
Used tires.
But I also have a receipt from the taxi cab. Okay.
Just keep that receipt right now.
Thank you.
Okay, $1,210. Then you lent the car to somebody.
Yes, I lent to my uncle.
And your uncle was going to Mexico
Right.
and got stopped at the border
Yes, coming back in.
because she had reported the car stolen.
Yes, ma'am, on the 17th.
So they impounded the car, and you had to take a taxi to go and get your uncle.
Yes.
That's the little slip for the taxi.
Yes.
We're talking about $1,210.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you owe him. He got the car. He got the car in good faith. He got the car from your son. You left your children high and dry when you went to jail. They had to do whatever they could to survive. Don't shake your head no. It's exactly what happened. Let me see the piece of paper that you got when you got the car.
I didn't get nothing from him, Your Honor.
Why did you take the car without a piece of paper?
He told me it was inside the car, the pink slip, and I believed him. I wasn't ready to change it. I was ready to fix it up. When she came out, I wanted her to sign it.
The pink slip was in the van, Your Honor.
It was in the van?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
It was under the passenger seat. There's a compartment under there.
Did you tell him where it was, or did you keep that a secret?
I told him it would either be in the glove compartment or under the seat, Your Honor.
Is that what he told you?
Yes, he did. And I tried to look for it, and I didn't find it.
Okay, $1,210. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Go ahead.
Okay.
Talk
well,
and
Your
talk
Honor,
fast.
I'm going to probably have to talk against my son a little bit here because the van is, I'm the legal owner of the van. It belongs to me. I never told him to sell it. I
Listen
never
to
gave
me
him
very
permission.
carefully. You should have thought of that before you went to jail and left your children with no place to live unless somebody else paid the rent. Get on with your
I left the rent
counterclaim.
money with my mother. She was getting the EBT card. She was going to pay the rent.
Happened too
So-
late. Happened too late. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. Fast.
When I got out I'm still thinking he had it because he told me he didn't sell it. He still has my van. So I come home. He tells me he doesn't have it, tells me Art has it. So I called him up. I told him we need to talk. He comes over, hands him $150 in front of me. I said, it's not for sale. I'm not selling it to you. Whatever you gave him, I'm giving your money back. You give me back my van. He says, no, I don't have it.
He spent your money. He spent the money. That's spending it. He didn't have it for you to give back. Counterclaim, Ms. Dominguez.
So I have problems of myself where I cannot risk him having the van under my name. I'm liable for whatever goes on with it. So I had to report it stolen. And I told him I was going to do this, and immediately they called me the next day. I had to go pick it up in San Diego. They told me the guy was claiming to be the owner, and so I had to pay $185 plus $150 taxi.
Well, your two taxis cancel each other out.
Okay, and then I have the there was a lot of damages done to the car. I don't know, Border Patrol did it or whatever for whatever reason. They took the hinges off the doors and lifted up the rug and all kinds of things.
He's not responsible for that. I guarantee you he didn't do it. He didn't clean out the car and put new tires on it and have the radiator flushed and have it put in pristine condition in order to wreck it. It all wouldn't have happened if you hadn't reported the car stolen. It wasn't stolen. You knew exactly who had it.
No, he said he didn't have it. He was telling me he didn't have it. He kept telling me he did not have it.
He said he lent it to somebody.
I told him, you got to do something. You know who has it, because I can't afford to, have liability on this vehicle, and I don't know what you're doing with it across the border or who you're bringing back or what you're transporting.
How much time did you give? Listen, he didn't clean out the car to bring back a whole bunch of people that he didn't know.
He didn't clean it out, Your Honor.
How much time did you give him to get back the car?
He had till Monday.
How much time did you give him? You came
He had
out on
3
when?
days.
3 days.
3
Okay.
days.
I still don't get your counterclaim. Your taxi fare down to get the car
I have
to
the
Mexico?
estimate of the damages to the window tinting was all scratched.
Listen to me. Take that up with Border Patrol. It all could have been avoided if you had not reported the car stolen. Your son, who is 17, took it upon himself to do something that he shouldn't have. So I suggest this big strapping guy go and get a job and give you back $185 if you think that he should. Right now, you owe this man $1,210 because you have your truck, you have the money he put into it, you have the money he gave your son that he used for rent, and he has nothing. There is something inequitable about that. Do you understand? Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,210. That's all.
He offered me the car, and he brought it to my house. How can I force him to sell me a car?
Yeah, this is case number 534 on the calendar in the matter of Fisher versus Martin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Fisher, Miss Friend, according to your complaint, you believe she owes you care of her during the period of time that she lived with you, rent, expenses, etc.
Correct.
Miss Martin says that you did take care of her. She was ill. There was never any discussion of her paying back the money that you were spending in order for her to live there. When did Miss Martin move into your house, Mr. Fisher?
It was June of 2004.
How long had you had the house?
3 years prior to that.
Had you ever lived there with anyone else?
My 10-year-old son.
He still lives with you?
No, he's with his mother. He wasn't happy with the situation.
Do you still own the house?
No, I don't.
When did you sell it?
I didn't sell it. I had a lease option on it. I was asked to leave for non-payment, deriving from part of the money that she owes me, along with a couple other individuals.
That sounds like a lot of stuff there, Mr. Fisher. So this was a rental house, and you were evicted for non-payment of rent?
Correct.
That's easy. You see how easy that was?
Well, it was a lease option initially.
I don't care. It was a lease option. This was not a house you owned. Either you are an owner or a renter.
Correct.
If you are a renter, you pay rent. If you don't pay rent, you get evicted. So that's what happened.
Yes.
I just want to find out, whether the fact that she wasn't paying rent in any way impacted on your ability to pay the rent because you had lived in this house for 2 years before she moved in.
What it did was encumbering her expenses, prescriptions, cell phone
So
bills.
now you're going to get to other things. Because you did list rent here. When she moved into the house, Mr. Fisher, was there an agreement to pay rent?
There was a verbal agreement for her to pay 1/3 of what the house payment was, of $1,080.
Is that right?
No. There was never any discussion about sharing any expenses when he
Well,
moved in.
Ms. Martin, let me start with you. Why did you move in with him?
My husband had recently went into jail. I was going through a divorce. Steve and I were friends at the time, and we began a relationship. He insisted on me moving in with him, and he proceeded to move all my stuff in from my apartment into his house.
Were you working at the time you moved in with him?
I was.
What were you doing with your money?
I was putting it into the expenses in the house. He never asked me for money when it was time for rent, so...
So what did you do? Go shopping or pick up cleaning? I mean,
yeah,
I'm trying
stuff
to
like
decide
that.
what you
Yeah,
did.
just day-to-day stuff. I didn't save my money. I didn't sit on my money.
So you moved in June. When did you stop working? According to Mr. Fisher, you became ill and stopped working.
I stopped working in December of 2004, but I went back again in May.
Now, Mr. Fisher, in June of 2004, how much rent did Ms. Martin give you towards the house?
0.
In July, how much rent?
0.
August?
0.
September?
0.
October?
0.
Would it be fair to say, Mr. Fisher, that from the time then that Ms. Martin moved in, she paid you no rent?
Correct.
Why didn't you evict her?
She had no money. All the time she had no money.
Well, but at that time, Mr. Fisher, she was working.
She was not working full time.
So you understood at that time that you weren't going to get rent from her.
No, but I was assured. She makes decent money, and the money was going, and it took me a considerable amount of time to figure out where her money was going.
Well, Mr. Fisher, you were evicted from the house, is that right?
Correct.
How many months behind rent were you?
2.
Here, Miss Fisher is 12 months behind the rent. So let's say, Mr. Fisher, you're a really good guy, and instead of 2 months, you gave her 3 months to pay her rent, and she paid 0. Would you tell me why, Mr. Fisher, you didn't evict Miss Martin from your house?
Your Honor, she was ill. I mean,
she was sleeping in your bed.
She was violently ill.
Listen to me.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher, she was sleeping in your bed.
Correct.
You weren't sleeping in your landlord's bed, right?
No.
So
no,
that's why your landlord evicted you.
Yes.
You got it, Mr. Fisher? What I'm telling you is, Mr. Fisher, you can't be a crybaby.
Oh.
The fact that the two of you separated, you have all kinds of reasons. She was very ill. You claim she was abusing prescription medication. You claim she was doing other things. Bottom line is, she was your girlfriend. You were sharing a bed. You were going on vacation. You were sharing meals together. And if the situation didn't take a bad turn, we wouldn't be here today. If the two of you were still together, you would have either made up your mind that you were going to be supporting Miss Martin, or you didn't want to support Miss Martin. But you don't accept a connubial relationship. A connubial relationship and a landlord and tenant relationship usually mixed like water and oil, Mr. Fisher. Right. What else do you think she owes you?
For the prescriptions, car payments, I helped her with a down payment on a 2004 Acura TSX.
Well,
also
let's get to, just a second, let's get to the car payments, Miss Martin. That's something that may interest me. Did Mr. Fisher make car payments for you?
We both did. Yes, he did.
It's your car. You should make the payments. I didn't
Right.
ask you, Miss Martin. I didn't ask you whether or not you made the payments on your car. You don't expect me to make the payments. Bird certainly doesn't want to make the payments on your car. Did Mr. Fisher make car payments for you when you were unable to do so?
Yes, he did.
Did you tell him you were going to pay him back?
No, we shared the car. We used it as like a family car.
Did he have his own car?
There was a long while where it was our only means of transportation.
From when to when was it your only means of transportation?
I bought it in October and April or May of '05 that he had his own vehicle.
What kind of car did you have Christmas of '04, sir?
I had a Ford Taurus and a Porsche 911. There was an incident.
They weren't working, Your Honor.
There was an incident, Your Honor, where she was with my son and she had a car accident with the Ford Taurus. So there was a brief time, 3 weeks approximately, where I was without a vehicle. She had totaled the front end of the vehicle.
The Taurus was wrecked about 2 months after that and out of commission for about 5 months.
Taurus, we drove the Taurus till it was wrecked again by this individual sitting next to me. He was...
What month?
May of 2005. I had also just received my Porsche back from a painter who kept it for 10 months. That's what I'm saying. I probably...
Just a second. So then Porsche 911 was being painted for 10 months?
Yeah, it was 10 and a half months.
Oh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When two people live together.
Former live-in girlfriend Taryn Martin owes for rent, medical prescriptions, and various living expenses. Steve claims Taryn has been abusing prescription meds.
She is correct, Mr. Fisher, that you did use for periods of time her car as the family car.
No, I used the rack.
All right.
And I got...
How many months car payments?
I made 5 months worth of car payments. I have copies if you'd like, Your Honor.
I would like to see them, sir. Tell me about the conversation that you had with her when you were making those car payments.
I was assured that I would be reimbursed once the business she was doing out of my house got on its feet. And I was always told that the revenue wasn't that much. After she moved out, I started cleaning up the office. I found paycheck stubs from the escrow company that indicated she brought in about $7,800 within a 2-month time frame, which I wasn't privy to this information.
You were not working at that time. Is that right? Because you were full-time because you were ill?
Off and on, I was ill. I was suffering from a lot of stress. I had bleeding ulcers, and it would come back and forth every couple months.
The only thing that I want to know from you, Ms. Martin, is did there come a time when you had a conversation with Mr. Fisher where you agreed to compensate him for making these car payments for you when you could not?
No.
Why would you think that he would give me that story now?
I don't know, Your Honor. I do have a text message from him from 2 days ago that indicates that he never wanted to sue me, but he needs money.
I'd like to see it.
The text... Can I respond, Your Honor?
I want to see it, and you can respond.
And just push this down button to read the rest.
Mr. Down, can you see the rest of it?
Okay, so now this says, I just want it done. I won't start anything. I never wanted to sue, but I need the money. I wish I didn't, and I can't confide in you anymore except for I need it. He seems to say in this text message, Miss Martin, that he does consider this a loan. He didn't want to sue you, but he needs the money that, and I'm adding the words that you owe him. What did you want to say?
It all came into perspective for me as when I had been in a motorcycle accident. And right after that, I had also gotten in an accident in my garage with a wire wheel and an air compressor and got a 1-inch piece of wire right center in my pupil. Didn't have money because I just got done paying some stuff for her, which I don't have insurance. I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay for the doctor. She comes over to the house. We're not residing together. She moved three blocks away from my house. Comes in and asks me for 2 car payments. And she was aware that I was literally this. I turned white. I could not see. And that's when I kind of put everything into perspective as to what I was. And that's when I kind of got a little perturbed that I had done all this, and it was irrelevant that I needed, I was trying to scramble to get my stuff fixed. And
so what you're telling me, Mr. Fisher, is you were disappointed?
To say the least.
I didn't come to him and ask him for 2 car payments. I borrowed $200 to go towards my rent at one point after I had moved out.
Why?
I needed help making my rent at the time.
But Mr. Fisher, who had taken care of you, needed some help also.
He never asked me for anything.
Mr. Fisher, quite frankly, sir, I don't believe that there was ever an agreement with Miss Martin to pay you rent. I do, however, believe that some of these car payments, the car payment was how much, Miss Martin?
$529.80. That
these car payments were made on your behalf.
Correct.
Your Honor?
What?
I also have a handwritten letter from Taryn dated 11/22/05 that states, I have a debt outstanding with you. I intend to pay it, da-da-da-da-da-da. So there was an acknowledgement of debt. And if there wasn't the debt, she gave me $100. I met her in Hanford 2 months ago at a park and ride where she turned around, handed me a $100 bill, and had me sign a receipt.
Tell me about this ring. What kind of ring did she give you?
She gave me her wedding ring that she retrieved when she went through the separation. She wanted to sell it. Her and I both went around Fresno.
Your Honor,
just a second.
I'm sorry.
Giving me a whole story, Mr. Fisher. Ring?
Yes.
Did you sell it?
Yes.
How much did you sell it for?
It was $1,000.
Why did you give him the ring?
He claimed that I was using him for money and that I owed him money.
When was this, Miss Martin?
I don't remember the time that I gave him the ring.
The ring was to be utilized for the down payment on the vehicle. I put the down payment on the address.
How much was the down payment?
$2,000.
Did you put down $2,000 on the car?
He did.
Good. Okay, fine. So we forget about the down payment on the car. You got the ring.
And I have the appraisal for the ring.
I don't care about the appraisal. Listen, you can get an appraisal for anything. Now, you paid for prescriptions?
Yes, I did.
How much were the prescriptions?
$729.87, and here's copies of the receipts, Your Honor.
What about the prescriptions, Miss Martin?
He just went and got them for me when I was ill and offered to do it and had no problem with doing it ever.
Well, if you were making the money, why weren't you paying for your own prescriptions?
A lot of it was my cash.
Really?
Yeah, he was unemployed from November of '04 until now.
I was not unemployed, John.
All right.
And then also...
Listen, when 2 people live together and then you come to court to try to unravel these things, I'm speaking, nobody ends up happy. What I think is reasonable, however, is that since you both used this car and since Mr. Fisher did, in fact, make 5 car payments, that each of you be responsible for half of those car payments. And that's it, Mr. Fisher. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,322.50. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Massey versus Zavala. Step forward, please.
Mary Massey and her husband Clinton are suing former friend, 22-year-old Amber Zavala, for the balance on a Ford Escort they sold her. The Masseys claim Amber wrecked it driving drunk.
Mr. and Mrs. Massey, the defendant was a friend of yours?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, some time ago you allowed her to take over the payments on a car that you had purchased.
Yes.
With the understanding that when she finished paying off the car would be hers.
Right.
Unfortunately, she had an accident with the car was totaled.
Right.
There was no insurance on the car, and you believe that Ms. Zavala should pay at least up to this court's maximum, which is $5,000, for the car because you are being held responsible for the remainder of the payments on the car.
Yes.
Ms. Zavala says that she was under the impression that there was insurance on the car, that you kept the insurance on the car, and she's counterclaiming because she says that you should have kept the insurance on the car so that all of her medical bills and her loss of work, her loss of income, would have been covered if you had had proper insurance. She also wants some stuff that was left in the car after the accident. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you take possession of this car, Ms. Zavala?
In October of last year.
What kind of car was it?
A Ford Escort ZX2.
What about the insurance?
There was no way I could get insurance on the car because I was not added to the registration.
Why did you let the insurance lapse?
Because we only had liability on insurance, and it wasn't even in our name. It was in his father's name, just to cover us if she had hit somebody else.
Okay, so tell me, when was the accident?
January 29th.
Well, tell me about the accident, Ms. Zavala.
I was on my way home from a friend's house, and I was trying to get my cell phone out of my pocket.
Let's go a little slower.
Okay.
You were on your way home from a friend's house?
Yes.
What time?
It was almost 6 in the morning.
What were you doing coming home from a friend's house at 6 a.m.?
We had gone out earlier, and then we'd all gone to her house and just kind of hung out and talked.
Had you been drinking?
Wait, earlier, yes.
When earlier?
I had stopped drinking at the bar at 1 o'clock, and between 1 o'clock and my accident, I had 2 beers.
Go ahead, let me hear what happened.
So I was on my way home, and it was getting late, so I was trying to get my cell phone to let Bobby know that I was on my way home and see if he was home, because it had been late. We hadn't really talked all night.
I don't care what you wanted to say to him.
I just didn't know I was getting my phone, and then
You were getting your phone how?
Out of my pocket. It was in my pocket, so just I looked down long enough to pull it out, and it was just enough to veer, just enough to the right to hit the corner of the bridge, and I ended up flipping over a bridge into the canal.
So whose fault is that?
It was mine.
You had alcohol?
Yes.
You were not paying attention?
Right.
So it's your fault that the car was totaled?
Yes.
Why didn't you pay for it?
Well, if there would have been insurance on the car, it would have been covered through insurance. It was an accident.
If I would have been taller, I would have had a potential modeling career, unfortunately.
That's very true. But that's why we have insurance, is for accidents, and that's what it was.
You have to have liability insurance in case you hit somebody else. You don't have to have collision insurance.
But I couldn't even get that. I couldn't even get liability myself because I was
It doesn't make any difference about liability insurance, madam. You didn't hit somebody else. Put your hand down. They're not suing you for damage you did to somebody else's property or for someone that you hit in the car. They're suing you because they want the money that they have to pay out for the car because of your negligence. You got it?
I understand.
Your Honor?
What?
There are several insurance companies that do have non-owner policies available.
Do I need
and
you?
It wasn't...
Just a second. Is this your husband?
Yes.
Does he often talk when he probably shouldn't?
Sometimes.
This is one of those times.
Okay.
Somebody is going to be out $5,000. It's either going to be them, and they weren't driving a little drunk and trying to get a hold of a boyfriend, looking downstairs in your pocket instead of looking in front of the road. You were. So somebody's going to be out $5,000. Who do you think I'm going to choose?
Probably me.
Right. You're probably right. Now, your counterclaim, your ridiculous counterclaim, wants your medical bills because you were injured?
Yes.
You were taken to the hospital?
Yes.
You missed work?
Yes.
Next time, don't drink and drive.
I wasn't drunk.
Next time, don't drink and drive.
Okay.
So your counterclaim with regard to your medical bills, pain and suffering, out of work, etc., is dismissed.
Okay.
Now, there was stuff in the car.
Yes.
Do you have her stuff?
Yes, it's in our car right now.
Great. You can turn it over to them. They can get their stuff back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well,
Parties have been sworn in. You may...
According to the complaint that I read, you purchased your first home. Where was the home?
In Lithia Springs, Georgia.
How large a home was it? Or is it? Because you're in the home now.
3-bedroom, about 2,000 square feet.
And you saved up to buy this house?
Had saved up to buy this house.
Did it come furnished?
No.
Tell me what happened.
Judge Judy, on December 22nd, 2004, I had just closed on my house that morning. And later that afternoon, I went by my mom's, and she said, let's go to the store. And I said, good. Then we can come back by my house, brand new house, and I can get some blinds while we're there. So we proceeded to the store. We got the blinds. We came back to the house. And in approaching my house, we saw a white truck in the yard. My mom stated, Jennifer, is someone in your house? And I said, it may be a squatter. And we laughed, ironically. So we got out. Me in excitement jumped out first and ran to my front door with my key that the lawyer had gave me at closing. And I opened the door. And as soon as I cut on the light, I saw a shadow, a figure, jump up. And from where I came into the first room, there's like...
What is the first room?
First room is like a sitting room. And at that point...
Jump up from the floor?
From the floor. And the shirt, I could see the shirt was falling down, and I could see their white midriff, and I could see they were pulling up their pants. And I kind of stood back, again, because I didn't know how many was in the house, because this was a big truck in my yard. So I asked, who is this in my house? And the shadow hollered back as he was actually in the process of actually running to the next room. I'm with the builder. I was with the builder earlier. My mom asked, Jennifer, is someone in there? I said, yes, somebody's in here having sex. And then my mom, in shock and disbelief, she came on up behind me, and we stood there.
Tell me what you saw.
When she came up behind me, I continued with her to walk into the next room, which is the living room. And at that point of turning on that light, I saw a white female, blonde hair. She was getting up. She was in the process of was fixing on her clothes, but the actual shirt was on backwards. She, still grabbing her stuff. At this point, I'm looking around, and I'm still thinking, could someone still be in here? And I'm crying and boo-hooing. And I see tissue paper everywhere, all over the carpet. And I also see a cell phone. And mind you, as I'm standing there crying in disbelief, she's picking this stuff up and trying to get out of there. My mom asked, what are y'all doing in this house? And she didn't say anything. She just shook her head, and she was turning red. And she continued to go on into the next room, which I cut on the light in there was my actual kitchen and breakfast nook area. I actually saw coins on my island, and I saw coins on the floor. And the actual kitchen drawer that's near the stove was pulled out. So she pushes the drawer back in, and then she just bolts from the kitchen out into the laundry area and out the garage entry door. At this point, this female goes to the passenger side of the truck, jumps in, and at that point, I'm not sure where the actual guy that was in my house comes from, but he actually comes to the driver's side, and he's fumbling to get in the car, and he says a curse word, and she finally lets him in. He backs up real fast. Mind you, my mom is still standing.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. He's Kenneth Sorrows.
He's the guy that you saw that was in your house. He acknowledges that he was in your house. He has a story to tell me. And what you want in this lawsuit is damages for being in your house.
Yes.
The builder, the cleaner, replaced the carpet. You want money for changing the locks. And while all of that was being done by the builder, you had to stay for an additional month in your old apartment, so you want a month's rent.
That's right.
And how much?
$1,000.
All right, Mr. Sorrows. Officer Petrie Hawkinsbird and I are prepared for you to tell us your version of these events.
Okay, number one, she never seen me with my clothes off.
Don't tell me what she saw.
Okay.
You tell me.
Okay,
tell me, and you tell Officer Bird.
Okay.
What you wrote in your answer as your version of these events.
All right, I never was undressed in her home. I would come to the subdivision to look for work. And I talked to the electrician about doing some telephone work in the other homes. As I was leaving the subdivision, this lady was walking down the street, running. I don't know who she was, the lady in her house.
Your Honor, listen to me. He didn't interrupt you. I don't want you to say a word. Do you understand?
Yes.
And she was, her clothes were torn. She was distraught. She was crying. I stopped. I said, "Are you okay?"
Describe this lady to me.
She was blonde-haired, probably 40 years old. I don't know. I've never seen her before. I've never seen her since. I don't know her name.
Okay, so this
Maybe
blonde
she does.
lady was coming down the street with torn clothes.
Yes, and she had said she'd been in a fight with her boyfriend, and she said, "Well, I'll take her to a hotel." I said, "I certainly will." I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yes, I'm okay." She said, "Before I go, you go back to this house to get my stuff." I said, "Sure." So we pulled back in the driveway, and we went in the house. There's an unspoken rule. I've contracted in homes for 20 years, and if the home has a private residence sign, which means someone's closed on the house, they put up a sign that says private residence, and they also change the locks because all the trades have keys to those houses. That's how we get in and do our work. I mean, the carpenter has a key, the painter has a key, the roofer, everybody has a key.
Carpenter
the house was wide open.
To me. Carpenter and the roofer aren't here.
Yeah, but anyway.
They weren't in the house.
So we went in the house, her house, I guess she said she closed on that day. And as we entered the house, this lady's clothes were torn, and there was stuff all over the floor. Her purse was just spread. Her change, her cell phone, her makeup, everything was all over the floor. And I was helping her pick it up when she came to the door, and she came bursting in, yelling and cussing, of course, because she said it was her house. I didn't know who she was. I thought it might have been the people that the lady I was with had to fight. And I did have a black sweatshirt on and an orange shirt, and I gave her my black sweatshirt. I was taking it off. I had it off in my hand, actually, when she came in. I said, "Put on this shirt, just, I don't know who that is, just put on the shirt." I was helping her get her stuff out of the floor. She came in yelling and cursing, and so I said, "I'm just out of here," because I didn't know who these people were. I mean, it was just her word against mine. She bought the house. I didn't know who she was.
You got the story so far?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody he never saw before, never saw again, came running down the street, blonde lady, torn clothes. He went into this house to sort of help her get her stuff together.
Right.
And also, for some reason, took off his sweatshirt.
Right, to
cover her up. And then this lady came in, and he didn't know whether she was the boyfriend of the lady who had assaulted her. He said he's not sure whether she was the person who assaulted her or not, even though he said that it was the boyfriend. She had had a fight with her boyfriend. And so instead of confronting her, he ran out the back door. Got it? Got it so far? That is right.
Well, I've tried to
just a minute.
her.
That is right.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
For coming here,
Contractor Kenneth Sorrows illegally entered her home. Jennifer claims she walked in on him having sex.
Now, you were there looking for work. Had you worked in that subdivision?
No.
So how did you know about all these unwritten rules that you can go into a
Well,
house
I've
as long
worked
as...
in every subdivision in the county. I was born and raised in Douglas County. In every
But you
subdivision
didn't work in this subdivision?
Not yet.
All right, so you were looking for work there?
Exactly.
Now, when you found this stranger, according to you, this lady who you didn't know, you thought was possibly a trespasser or somebody who had assaulted this blonde lady, right?
I don't know who it was.
You didn't know who it was,
Her boyfriend,
but...
her and her boyfriend got in a fight.
Listen to me. Well, she certainly is not the boyfriend.
I know she was his wife or her girlfriend. I didn't know who it was.
So you didn't know who it was.
I know the girl.
But you weren't waiting around and you thought she may have been a trespasser.
No, I didn't.
Did you report it to anybody?
I talked to the police that night. She called the police.
Oh,
and
no,
they called
no.
me.
Before she called the police on you, did you go to the police?
Didn't have time.
What were you busy with?
I just took the lady to the hotel, left her, and the police called me immediately.
Well, what'd you do with the lady's cell phone?
I didn't have her cell phone. I had a cell phone on my own. I didn't have her cell phone.
So you had your own cell phone? Speak.
Yes.
Well, then you had time while you were in the white truck to call the police.
I didn't see any need in calling the police. I left.
That a good story?
That's funny. I thought he was going to make something up.
Good. Can I have a police report? Mr. Sorrows, that is the lamest story I ever heard. I've been here a long time. That ranks, well, not the lamest story I've ever heard, but it ranks right up there, sir.
And Judge Judy, can I say something?
What?
Because he said if there's a written rule, there's a private residence sign, and they don't go in. There's a sold sign on there, so he didn't apply for that house.
Miss Watts, I didn't have to see anything. That story has so many holes. Were you charged with criminal trespass, sir?
I was charged with nothing. I talked to the officer that night. He had no forced entry, no damage to the house. He said if I agreed to have the carpet cleaned, it would go no further. It says that in the police report.
Judge Judy, may I ask?
And then 3 days later, I talked to the police chief, and she said that she's up here trying to take a warrant for you. He said, I can't take a warrant for you, Mr. Strauss, because you didn't do anything wrong.
Of course you did.
There wasn't a warrant taken for my arrest.
Led, I want to tell you something. If you lived in my county, there would have been a warrant issued for your arrest. If you had lived in my county, I would have charged you with trespass, Mr. Soros. What's the name of the police chief in Douglasville?
So,
do you know the name of the police chief in that county? Before he just told you, did you know the name of the police chief?
No.
Yeah, but you did. They don't keep me in this job, Mr. Soros, because I'm young and lithe and beautiful. They keep me in this job because I'm smart. Joe and I aren't friends. You would have paid for more than the carpet. And for coming here and fabricating that story and insulting my intelligence. I'm speaking. When I'm speaking, you don't. By insulting my intelligence and coming here and giving me that cock and bull story, I'm awarding her damages. It's pretty consistent with what she wants. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all. Step out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Step out.
He didn't say no.
25-year-old Regina Moraga is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Jason Davis, for kicking a dent into the side of her car and for his share of a trip to Hawaii.
Miss Moraga, this young man used to be your live-in boyfriend. You broke up and claim he owes you for a whole bunch of things.
Correct.
First, over a year ago, you had an argument and he kicked your car. You want him to pay for the debts on your car. After that, you sort of forgave him. You went back to living together. And then you decided to go to Hawaii. He didn't have any money. According to you, you laid out the money with his promise to pay you back. Then later, you had an argument. You broke up with him. He moved out. And you want him to pay his share of the last 4 months' rent after you broke up with him.
Correct.
Mr. Davis says, well, he did, in fact, lose his temper and kick your car. But you forgave him.
Correct.
That's what he says. And you agree with him. You forgave him.
Yes.
Then he says that you knew he didn't have money to go to Hawaii. You said, I'll take care of it. He has a limited income, and you were aware of that. As far as the rent is concerned, Mr. Davis says you live in a one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
You broke up with him, so he left. And he found a different place to live, where I assume you have to pay rent.
Most definitely.
Yes would be sufficient, Mr.
Yes.
Davis. When did he kick your car? I forget it. When did you kick her car?
I don't know the exact date. It was quite some time ago.
Why did you kick her car?
We've been in a kind of a rocky relationship, going back and forth, breaking up, making up.
Did you kick her car badly?
Badly enough to dent it.
You have a picture of it?
Yes, I have a picture.
I'd like to see it.
That's
What kind of car is it?
It's a Honda Civic.
How old?
2000.
Did you have it fixed?
No, I still haven't had it fixed because I'm waiting for him to pay for it. I'm not going to take my own money to pay for something that he did.
Did you really kick this car this badly, sir?
I have to see the dents, but yeah, I dented.
You can see the footprints
Just
on
a
it.
second. What are you, a nut? Why did you kick her car?
I do have a comment. I've watched like Judge Hatchet and whatnot, and I do believe I need anger management, but I'm a starving student, and if
Mr. Davis,
the court would allow...
Mr. Davis, I'm not interested in your story.
You're not interested in helping me?
No, I'm not interested. I'm not
Okay.
interested in helping
I was
you.
just...
Mr. Davis,
Judge,
I'm not
Hatchet.
interested in helping you, and I'm not interested in starving student. I'm interested in you looking at the pictures and telling me, sir, whether or not that's what you did. Okay? I mean, I'm not your mother. You want to go over and see Judge Hatchet? She's a terrific gal. Very good friend of mine. She likes to help people. I don't. I have 5 children and 11 grandchildren. I don't need anybody else to help. You owe her the money to have this taken care of. Can I see an estimate, please? $2,883.08. Next, trip to Hawaii.
That was in August 2005.
This was after he dented.
Correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't have lent him a penny.
Well, I was naive at that time, and I thought
what made you get smart?
Well, because he said he was going to get help, anger management classes. We were, reconciling things, and he was going to get better, and with his temper.
Miss Moraga, I wouldn't have taken him on a trip to Hawaii until the dents were fixed on my car.
But he's a student, and he always agreed that he would pay once he got, a good enough job.
Well, he didn't get a good enough job. He's still a student.
Yeah, and we always talked.
Listen, madam.
Yes.
He said he was going to pay you back for the trip to Hawaii when he got a good enough job?
Correct.
He didn't get a good enough job.
He's still a student when he graduates.
Well, then you're here too soon, madam.
Yeah, but we broke up before that.
That's not my problem.
But regardless, he's supposed to pay me back, correct?
When he gets a good job and he graduates. Neither of those two eventualities have occurred. Did he also say the same thing with regard to the car?
In regards to the car, he was supposed to pay me off throughout our relationship, but that never happened.
Why didn't you pay for the car?
I didn't take it as that was the case. I took it under the understanding that as us getting back together and moving towards getting married that all of our expenses were our expenses.
Well, that would be true, sir, except that expenses that were incurred as a result of your criminal activity do not become her debt. This is criminal activity. It's vandalism.
I understand.
Very good. I'm glad you understand. So far, you owe $2,883. The Hawaiian trip, you'll see him when he gets
But
a
we're
job
no
after he's
longer
grad-
together, though.
That makes no difference. This is a court. You want to go on Jerry Springer? Go on Jerry Springer. This is a court. You had a contract. Your contract with him was, according to you, that when he graduates from college and gets a good job, he'll pay you back for the trip to Hawaii.
But if we break up because of his
No,
temper...
that's not what he said at all. If you break up because of his temper, you knew his temper. You knew his temper before you took him to Hawaii.
Yeah, but he...
Get over it, Mr. Morango. You made a mistake. You're a young girl. You don't hang around with somebody who's got enough of a temper to do this to your property. He does this to your property, he'll do it to your face.
Well, when he says he's going to pay me back for the trip for Hawaii, that's what I expected. And I didn't think that we were going to break up. I didn't think this was going to happen. So now I have to suffer
That's
and pay for
absolutely
him.
right. Stupidity sometimes suffers. After somebody kicked my car like this, I wouldn't have taken
But
him
it's
to
not
Hawaii.
fair.
Not fair. Life isn't fair. You're supposed to be smarter. And you're also not supposed to live with somebody in a one-bedroom apartment. You broke up with him because of his temper?
We broke up. It was a mutual agreement.
Well, where did you expect him to sleep?
In the front room.
It's a one-bedroom apartment. What's the front room?
Well, he broke a lease, correct? So if he breaks the lease, he has to pay the remaining balance on the 4 months that he...
Not if you put him out.
I didn't put him out. We broke up.
Yeah?
I told him he can stay there. I'm a student, so
What
I'm
about
getting
you
his
leaving?
money. I could have left too, but he couldn't afford it. He couldn't afford the $925. I could afford it on the other hand.
You living there alone now?
Yes, I am.
You affording it?
Kind of.
Good. Pay for it. He owes you $2,000.
I apologize for any harm or discomfort or anything that I may have caused her.
Matter of Courier versus Langley. Thank you. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Young man, have a seat.
Miss Courier, I assume this is your son, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What's his name?
Colby.
Colby attended the defendant's karate school.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were a satisfied customer?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were so satisfied that you prepaid tuition for the following year?
Yes, ma'am.
A month in advance, because you knew that he was going to go back to school. Then there was an incident at the end of the last year's session, and you claimed that Mr. Langley, who was the karate instructor, embarrassed your son. You thought he was most unprofessional. Your son chose not to return to the school. You want your money back.
Yes,
You want your money back primarily for the prepaid year.
Correct.
Stand up, Colby. Was your mother at the session where this happened?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you been going to the Langley school?
About 4 years.
Mr. Langley was your teacher?
Yes, ma'am.
Never had any problem with him?
No, ma'am.
You liked him?
Yes, ma'am.
You thought he liked you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Colby, tell me what happened on January 31st.
It was at karate on red tip testing day.
On what?
Red tip testing day.
Red tip testing day. Why don't you explain to Bird what that means?
It's basically a day where you test for your red tip. You need to have a certain requirement of black tips to get the red tip. Once you get the red tip, you can test. You're eligible to test for your belt, your next belt.
For a different level of belt?
Yes.
What belt had you achieved in January of 2006?
Advanced green. Advanced green.
Got to keep your voice up. And what belt were you going for?
Brown.
So you get a certain number of tips on your belt, depending upon whether you're able to perform certain tasks.
Yes, ma'am.
And once you get enough of these tips, you get to test for the next level of belt.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell me what happened on January 31st.
At the end of class, the instructor usually gives tips to the ones who've passed. Quietly pulls them aside and tells them what they need to work on. But at the end of class, the instructor just ended it. No explanations why, no tips, just ends it.
You're going much too fast for me, Colby.
Sorry.
At the end of the session, you took the tests.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you think you did well on the tests?
Yes, ma'am.
You thought you passed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did the other people in your class get their tips?
No, ma'am.
So nobody got their tips?
Nobody got their tips that day.
So that Mr. Langley was either having a very bad day or he was disturbed that the class as a whole did not accomplish their lessons.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
He just ended it and then left the room.
And then what happened?
I asked him, isn't it 3 tips for red tips?
Well, when you said you had left the room, had he left the room? Had you shouted after him or did you go after him?
I walked towards him. He was talking to a parent.
And then?
I said, excuse me, sir, isn't it 3 tips for red tips? Because Alex and I have 3 tips. And he just starts yelling at me.
What did he say?
What makes you think you're ready to test? You don't even know your moves. What makes you think you're ready?
Yes.
So I think he's done. I turn around to go get my bag, and I hear from behind me, oh, don't you walk away from me. I turn around, and he's standing right in front of me. I say, I'm sorry, sir, I thought you were done. At that point, I was fighting back tears. I don't remember what he said. I saw my mom by the door. When we went out the door, I said, please don't make me go back there.
You thought he was harsh with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Langley, let me hear you.
First, I'd like to propose a couple pieces of evidence to elaborate that Colby came to my school with certain needs. Mom had expressed that he had some self-control issues and some emotional anger and frustration issues, which she wanted my help with. Being that I teach karate as a full-time career for over 20 years now, it's one of my specialties is helping kids use the martial arts as a vehicle in which to become better people and develop the attitudinal qualities, not just the martial arts skills. On the night in question, it was a busy night for me. It's one of my busiest nights of the week. My wife was at home with our her son. We're both remarried, and my stepson was at home sick, so she was at home. Normally, my wife runs the front end business dealings, and I do, of course, the instruction on the mat. I had finished the red tip testing with the students, none of which were ready and passed. And on the way leaving the classroom to go to the front desk area, Colby yells out in front of the class, "What about my red tip?" I'm paraphrasing that. It could have been said another way, but he said it out loud in a very disrespectful fashion for a student of 4 years at my school. And my response back was, "Colby, you've got to be kidding me. You couldn't get through your material. How could you even ask for a red tip?" He knows the protocols and standards nationwide.
Okay, so that's what you said to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what was said?
That's all I remember saying, ma'am. I remember it being very quick, very short. I didn't even remember the incident until 2 days later when we got the quit notice that there was even a problem or an incident, because I've used very similar methodologies with students if they're disrespectful on the mat. My mat area is very similar to a courtroom. The protocols and etiquettes are very clear and very... They know what the protocols are.
Mr. Langley, is it possible, sir, that because you were pressured that evening, that you were pressured because there was nobody at the front end taking care of the money, which is why you're in the business that you're in, to make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
Your wife was home. You had a sick child home. I assume that you work a full day, not just evening. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the entire day was a little bit chaotic?
I wouldn't say chaotic. I would say it was busy. Yes, ma'am.
It was hectic?
Absolutely.
And this was the end of the evening?
Later evening, not end yet. There's still adult classes following the kids' classes after their classes are ending.
And so you had to take care of this group going out and another group coming in?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was hectic?
Yes, ma'am.
So you could have been a little short with Colby?
I would say I held him accountable for his behavior.
You could have been a little short with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What?
I was actually standing where I could see Colby. Colby did not yell out. Colby walked up to him, waited, and said, "Excuse me, sir."
I acknowledge to you that in all probability, Mr. Langley, because of the frustrations of his day, had been short with your son.
It wasn't just that he said what he said. He was playing to the crowd, and that was my biggest complaint, that he was, "What makes you think you're ready to test?" And there were people around him, and he was playing to them.
Ms. Currier.
Sorry.
I said he had a frustrating day, and he may have, on another day, handled the situation with your son differently. He's been his instructor for 4 years, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Never had any trouble in 4 years.
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have a bad day, Colby?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you say that sometimes when you've had a bad day, you react to things differently?
No, ma'am.
You react to things always the same way?
Yes, ma'am.
That's baloney. You could say no, man, yes, ma'am, until you're blue in the face. But when your mother enrolled you in school, she said she wanted you to handle a little bit of an anger problem. She wanted to get you goal directed. I believe Mr. Langley when he said that. So it's clear to me, Colby, that sometimes, like everybody else, you have a bad day and you react to things differently than you would under ordinary circumstances. I believe that's probably what Mr. Langley did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Life is full of...
Claims karate instructor Bob Langley embarrassed her son in front of his classmates. Bob claims 14-year-old Colby disrespected him.
Langley.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't provide him any service for the following year. Is that right?
It had not started yet, ma'am. Right. It's custom and practice in the martial arts to renew somebody anywhere from 1 month to 6 months prior to their expiration date for the following...
I don't care what's customary. You have a written contract that provides for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see. That says that they have to re-up a month to 6 months in advance.
There's nothing that states that.
Well, that's what I'm asking you,
yes,
sir.
Ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
So there's nothing that you have in writing that precludes her from getting her money back for the following year. You haven't provided any service, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was the money for the following year?
I wrote the check for $1,353.
Well, she's clearly entitled to that money back. When did the year start?
That year was not supposed to start until March of '02.
Plenty of time to replace the student in your class. Now, you didn't go back for the month of February.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes,
and you also want that money back. That money you don't get back.
I understand.
That money, Colby has to say, which is what I'm telling him, that sometimes people have a bad day. And life is full of high points and low points. And sometimes, even though you think you deserve to be rewarded by something, it doesn't happen that way. That doesn't mean that you get all soppy.
Yes,
you have to say, sometimes I'm going to get rewarded and sometimes not. In any event, you have to return her money for the following year, for the 2006-2007 year. $1,353, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Something that's been very valuable.
Frazier versus Pillsbury. Step forward.
20-year-old Nicole Frazier is suing her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Matt Pillsbury, for rent and an electric bill. Nicole says Matt is a deadbeat.
You think he's nice looking?
Yeah.
That's on your side. You think he has good character?
Not anymore.
Do you think he ever had good character?
Maybe...
When he was 2. Since you know him, has he had good character?
No.
Do you think he's responsible?
No.
You think he's reliable?
No.
You think he'd be a good provider?
No.
You think he'd be a good father?
No.
You think he'd be a good husband?
No.
You think he's a good son?
No.
Nicole, so let's see what we got. We got somebody who's good looking, period. That's a very good life's lesson for you.
Yes.
Because as you get a little bit older, you want someone who would be a good husband, a good father, a good provider, someone with good character, someone who's responsible, reliable, someone who you can count on to be a mate. Someone who's good looking, that fades. After a while, you don't see that anymore. All you see are all the other things that he's not. Now let's get to your lawsuit, now that I've given you my bit of wisdom. You moved in with Mr. Pillsbury, and he was supposed to, according to you, pay the rent. Well, not only didn't he pay your rent, but he didn't pay his own. According to you, you laid out money for both Mr. Pillsbury and his roommate, who got shot during some altercation and is now on life support in the hospital. Well, you took care of all the bills with the promise by Mr. Pillsbury that he would pay you back. You got fed up, you broke up, and he hasn't paid you back. You want your money, not only for the rent that you laid out, but also for the utilities that both he and his roommate had you put in your name. And Ms. acknowledges that you paid the rent. You took out loans from your credit card to do that. Mm-hmm. You acknowledge that she paid, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you acknowledge that she paid the rent both for you and her, and when your roommate got shot, for your roommate, right?
Yes.
Utilities as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to tell me why you shouldn't be responsible for at least your half.
Well, in spring of 2005, she had moved to Corpus Christi to go with her mother, and I found out she had cheated on me, and I had broke up with her. And then she told me she wanted to be with me and everything like that, and that she would do anything to be with me. And she had moved back down from Corpus Christi and said that the only way we could be together would be for us to live together. And at this time, I lost my job, and she said...
You lost your job doing what?
I was working for Singular.
What?
Singular.
Why did you lose your job?
It's a vacation I took.
It's what?
I took a little vacation and...
That's not losing your job, Mr. Pillsbury. That's quitting your job.
Well, I'd worked there for a long time, and I was supposed to have vacation time, and I told my boss, and then I didn't show up.
Just a second. Let's go back a little bit. In what month did you move in with the defendant?
In March.
And in what month did you decide to take a vacation?
It was in March.
March? And how long did you work there?
About a year.
How much did you have in savings?
Excuse me?
How much did you have in savings when you decided to take this vacation?
Not that much. I didn't really decide to take a vacation, it's vacation time.
Vacation time? Well, usually when people take vacation time and don't report to work, they know they're going to get fired.
Well, I was assistant manager at the time, and my superior had told me that it was all right to do that, but the market director came in town and said, where's the assistant manager, and to relieve me.
Fired you?
Yes.
Because you needed a vacation?
Yes.
You're 22 years old. You'd worked a year. Oh, my God. Oh, he worked for a whole year.
Oh, the strain.
Oh, the stress and strain of this job. How many hours a week did you work for Singular?
About 45.
45 hours a week. And how many people did you take care of when you weren't working?
Just myself.
When did you go back to work?
I did not go back to work.
Well, how have you been supporting yourself?
My mom's been helping me out.
Big mistake. What's your mother's name?
Lucille.
Lucille! You're going to make him into a bum. So you stopped working in March of 2005? Mm-hmm. It's a year later.
I've been doing other things as well.
Like what?
Just jobs here and there for advertising for cell phone companies, passing out stuff here and there.
You mean passing out flyers?
Mm-hmm.
Did he tell you he was going to quit his job when you moved down?
No, actually, whenever I was living with my mother in Corpus and he spoke to me and wanted me to move back to Houston and move in with him, he told me that he was working 2 jobs. But later I find out...
Which 2 jobs did he tell you he was working?
He told me he was working as a bartender at a restaurant and at a cell phone company.
You were also working as a bartender?
I went through training and I didn't like it.
You didn't like what?
The job scenario, so I didn't follow through with that, and then I was still doing the cell phone advertising as well.
Were you working on a commission for Singular?
Yes.
Okay. How much was the rent?
The first month that I loaned them, I wrote out a convenience check from a credit card for $850. That was for Matthew's half, and that was for Chris's half, which was the roommate. Chris paid me back his half within 2 weeks, which we agreed. Matthew did not. So
Matthew owes you $425.
For the first month.
Go ahead.
The second month, I paid the full amount because that was when Chris was in the car accident and he was shot.
Why didn't you move back to your mother's?
I did after the second month.
Why didn't you first month?
Because Matt wanted me to be there. The 2-bedroom apartment, and...
He lost his job in March. He wasn't working.
Well, he was playing poker.
He wasn't working.
I know.
So if you paid the entire rent for the 2 of them, that's your problem. Because you got to start to be smart, too. Once you paid the $425 for him and he didn't pay you back, I wouldn't have put in another penny. That's just dumb.
Well, I felt bad for him. It was a traumatic experience for his friend.
Feeling bad doesn't involve me. I don't feel badly for you. When did you pay the utility bill?
I put the utility bill in my name, I guess, August of 2005.
August of 2005? Why?
His electricity was going to get shut off.
Who cares? He still hadn't paid you back the $425, right?
Right.
I know.
Tell her that you were going to give her the $425 back?
No.
Did your roommate Chris give her the $425 back? He did?
Yes.
Did you have a discussion with him about it?
Mm-hmm.
What was the discussion?
That you need to pay the $425.
Why?
Because he was the roommate at the time.
And what about you?
We were a couple at the time, and I did not have a job, and she's just helped out.
What was she doing?
She was working at a restaurant.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Not making very much money.
Making enough money to pay the rent.
Well, that was credit cards, which I was very stupid about opening them up.
You were.
I know that now.
Did you pay the rent in June?
No.
Who paid the rent in June?
She did.
No, she didn't move down there until July, sir.
He didn't live in that apartment in June. He moved.
I'm talking about in June. Did you
I
pay
was living
rent?
in a one-bedroom.
Did you pay rent?
Yes.
How much was the rent?
$625, I believe.
Who were you living with?
I was by myself.
And you paid the rent?
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent when she moved in with you?
Well, I lost my job.
Just answer my question. So you stopped paying the rent when she moved in with you, and you moved in with your friend Chris into a new apartment?
Yes.
You owe $425. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's right.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You know, she helped me when I was down and out.
He said he didn't owe me the money because I lived there.
And never really said that I had to pay her back.
And I should pay the bills.
And now she's taking me to court and I have to pay her back. What can I do?
Because he doesn't want to pay me back.
Judge Judy's Judge Judy. What can I say?
To never loan anybody money.
Miss Rathel, are you nervous?
Yes.
Well, you're shaking. I haven't even started yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous.
Ms. Bass, this young lady was a friend of yours, and there came a time when, for some reason which you'll explain to me briefly, that she was living with you. Is your claim that she used your telephone? She used it to make a whole bunch of long-distance calls, some local, but mainly long-distance, ran up a bill, and you wanted to pay it. Ms. Rathel's defense is an interesting one. She says that you knew she had boyfriends all over the country, should have expected her to make, and there was never any agreement for her to pay for the phone. That's her defense.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
21.
Why were you living with her?
She had asked me to come up. Her husband's in Iraq, and she was, really stressed out, and I went up there to help her.
You need to stay with her?
And I did stay with her for about 3 weeks.
Did you leave your job?
No, I did leave my job. I wasn't working at the time.
Who was supporting you?
I had money from my previous job.
How much money did you go there with?
About $1,000.
Did you spend it?
Yes, ma'am. Within the first week on us, going out and partying and stuff.
Having a good time?
We did.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me about the contract that you had with regard to this telephone.
One day, Sheree was using the phone, and I didn't care if she used my phone, but she was making these calls, and I asked her, are you making long-distance calls? And she said, yes. And I said, well, when the bill gets here, we'll just split it. Your part and my part. I said, I think I have 10 cents a minute, but I'm not sure. And she just said, okay. It was that simple.
Now, when she went out with you, she said she paid.
In the beginning, the first week or two, yes, that's true. When I didn't have money, she had money. When I had money and she didn't, it went back and forth.
Where did you go?
Chili's mainly.
Chili's just for dinner?
Dinner and cocktails.
Did you have a lot of parties? Partying?
Yes, we did.
And your husband was in Iraq?
Yes, ma'am.
You think that's a smart thing?
No, ma'am.
Is he still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still together?
Yes, ma'am.
Hope they don't have TVs in Iraq.
They do.
Can I see the bill, please? How come you left?
We started fighting a lot.
Fighting about what?
A lot of stuff. The main reason I left was, I thought that she'd kick my dog down the stairs because he just stumbled down the stairs, and we got into, a really big fight after that, and I just got all my stuff and left.
When for the first time did she discuss this phone bill with you?
The thing is, she, owed me money from the first time that we went out. I paid for the babysitter for her son and everything, and she, said, as soon as my husband gets paid, I'll pay you back, and she never paid me back. And yes, she did pay for a couple bills once in a while, but they were nothing compared to the bills that I paid when we went out, I paid, we went to tons of bars that just, our bill was $100, and all, just for one restaurant, and that was just on cocktails. And I she lived with me for 1.5 years at my family, at my parents' house, rent free. No, she didn't pay a dime. She didn't have a car. I went up there with my car. I took them everywhere they needed to go. I did not ask them, I didn't ask for gas money for anything. I took them anywhere they needed to go. I, cleaned the house for her. I mean.
Is what you're saying that she's lying when she says that you agreed to split the phone bill?
Yes, I did say that, ma'am. But when she owes me the money, I just said, well, you can just take that out of that,
Well, you didn't say it at that point.
No, not at that point. I did not, ma'am.
Okay, and I didn't have a counterclaim.
I didn't know how to do that.
Well, sure you do. If you're suing somebody for money, they have to be put on notice about what you're suing them for.
That's happened.
So if what you're saying is that you did agree when she said to you, "We'll just split the bill. You pay what you owe, and I'll pay what I owe," you agreed to that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's easy. There's one for the plaintiff in the amount of $200.
All parties in the matter of Stebbins versus Quillhot. Step forward, please.
19-year-old pre-med student Kinsey Stebbins is suing her former year-old Tiffany Quillhot and her mother Rebecca. Paid rent and utilities.
Miss Stebbins, you and the defendant leased an apartment. This young lady leased an apartment together. Signed a 12-month lease?
Yes.
And it is your complaint that she moved out prior to the termination of the lease, leaving you to pay the rent, which you want her to pay, utilities. You are also suing her mother because it is your claim that her mother guaranteed that she would pay her half of the rent for the rest of the year. The defendant says that she paid for 1 or 2 months after she moved out, giving you ample opportunity to find somebody else. She gave her 30-day notice. She has no intention of paying for utilities in an apartment that she's not using, and her mother says she never guaranteed to pay the rent for the entire year. How long did you know each other before you moved in together?
A couple months.
From where?
School.
College?
Yes.
Were you both working?
Yes.
How much was the rent on the apartment?
$625 with a $50 deductible for a year lease.
When did you sign the lease, Ms. Stebbins?
November 9th of 2004.
When did you move out?
March 30th, 2004. 5.
Why?
Because I had lost my job, and the living conditions I wasn't very happy with, so I decided to move back home because my mom had made the statement that she would pay for my rent if I moved home.
Is that what you told your daughter?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Why did you do that?
Well, I knew she couldn't afford it. She was in an apartment that was costing her way too much money. She is my only child, and it is my obligation to help her out.
So you agreed to pay for the remainder of the lease?
I agreed to pay it with Tiffany. I did not make any type of a verbal agreement with Miss Stebbins.
Did you tell that to Miss Stebbins, that your mother agreed to pay for the rent?
Yes, I did.
Did you rely on that?
Yes, I did.
Why didn't you pay her?
About 3 or 4 weeks after Tiffany moved out of the apartment, she had a conversation with Kinsey, and Kinsey had made the statement that she was going to have her boyfriend moved in.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Ex-roommate Tiffany Quillhot broke their lease. Tiffany says Kinsey's boyfriend was supposed to take her place.
Did you tell the defendant that you had intentions of having your boyfriend move into the apartment?
At the time, I had discussed it with her about it, but she already had a boyfriend living there, so I asked her if it would be okay if he could move in. Things changed over time, but...
After she moved out, Miss Stebbins, we're not talking about while you were all living together and having a nice time. After she moved out, did you have a discussion with Tiffany that you planned to have your boyfriend move into the apartment?
No, this was before when she was still living there.
Is that right?
No, it is not.
When did she have the discussion with you?
April 8th that I had that discussion with her.
Well, tell me about the discussion that you had with her on April 8th.
My boyfriend and I had came to the apartment because I was going to get some stuff, and she had a note posted up on the door as you walked in stating that if I wanted to come into the apartment, she would be charging me $20.
But you had paid April.
Your Honor, could I add something, please? On the 1st of April, Tiffany tried to enter the apartment to get some of her things, only to find that the locks had been changed without her notice.
Is that right?
No. The locks had been changed because the manager had suggested it and said that he gave me a key for Tiffany and a key for me. But Tiffany had not called me or contacted me, and I was at work.
Okay, but you had already given 30-day notice to the landlord.
Not at that time.
When did you give notice to the landlord?
April 29th is when I signed my 30-day lease, and then I moved out officially on May 2nd.
Where's the boyfriend?
Not living there.
Why didn't the boyfriend move in?
I made a decision that I should live on my own and I should do my own things, and that right now I should be concentrating on school and work. I have 2 jobs now to pay for the apartment, and I'm going to school full-time.
The boyfriend's not in the picture?
No.
At all?
No.
That sounds like a really good idea. He had been in prison?
Yes.
For how long?
Jail for 3 months.
Yeah. Going to school, 2 jobs. You need somebody to spend 3 months in jail?
No.
Right. Be smart. Okay. Well, not a very difficult thing. You said you were going to pay the rent.
I was under the impression there was somebody else living there. I thought, I'm not going to pay for somebody else to live there.
He's not living there?
No.
Sure?
Yes.
You'd have no problem with her checking, right?
No.
Okay, so we have May, June, July, August, September, and October. 6 months' rent. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you do understand that I'm making this award based solely on the fact that the boyfriend is not there and that nobody else lives there. Who's this?
This is my friend who was there at the time when Tiffany broke the security lock on the door to get into the apartment. She was sleeping on the couch. I was in my bedroom with the door shut.
What was she doing sleeping on the couch?
That's right. I have no other place to have anyone sleep. She was staying the night.
What's your name?
Alexis Campbell.
You go to school?
I'm studying in fall.
You work?
Yep.
Where do you work?
Thunder Bay Grill.
Who do you live with?
My mother.
Why were you staying over that night?
We just do that. We hang out, stay together, watch movies, eat.
How much rent do you pay your mother?
Well, I'm not paying until I start my job on the 17th. I don't have to pay rent yet. But when I live there, I pay her $50, and then I also pay for half of the groceries, and I buy my own clothes and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think you spend a lot of time over at the plaintiff's house.
Sometimes.
And how long have you been spending these several evenings over at the plaintiff's house?
Years. We spent the night at each other's houses when we were
She hasn't
living with
spent the
my
night at your
parents.
house in the last couple of months because she's had her own apartment.
Yeah.
So you spend time at her house, right?
Right.
Miss Stebbins, I just changed my mind a little bit. I think that this young lady spends an awful lot of time at your house. So I think that they're going to be responsible for part of the rent. But I think she's going to be responsible for part of the rent after she gets her job, because I think that that's your intention.
I'm not moving in with her.
You may not, but if you spend a lot of time there, you should. Think about it, because instead of giving your mother $50 a week, you give her $50 a week and stay there full time. Why should she pay for your staying at the apartment?
I prefer to live by myself. I have no plans to move in with her.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That should cover your expenses for a little bit of time, madam. After that, I suggest that you either get her to pay a little rent or find another roommate. Do we understand each other? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gardino, step forward.
21-year-old Christina Gardino is suing her ex-roommate, 21-year-old Michael Danino, for rent, living expenses, damage to a jet ski, and the return of an entertainment system.
Ms. Gardino, the defendant was a friend of yours since your high school days.
That's correct.
And according to you, you met much later on. He was going through a divorce. How long were you married, sir?
A little under a year.
You have children?
No.
And he had fallen on some hard times. In any event, you decided to live together as roommates. You signed a lease, both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And moved into an apartment together. That was your first major mistake. How old are you?
I'm 21.
You had an apartment before?
I did, by myself.
Smaller apartment?
Yes, 1 bedroom.
Perfect. That's what you should have. You get 2 bedrooms with somebody that you really don't know. That's always trouble.
Right.
I would live in a closet before I have a roommate. Everyone out there, live in a closet. You get a roommate, somebody that you don't love, and you've got to be prepared to accept all their idiosyncratic behavior, including the fact that, according to you, right after you moved in, he lost his job, he had no money. You started paying the rent after his grandmother stopped paying his rent. According to you, he said he would pay you back for the rent, for the living expenses. He never did. And in addition to that, you took him jet skiing using your father's jet skis, and he was acting like an idiot, and he had an accident, and he cracked the jet ski, and he didn't fix it.
Right.
Michael says, what?
Actually, I wasn't really being supported. My grandmother did not stop paying rent.
Listen to me. Did she cover your rent?
No.
Never?
No.
Good. Tell me when you covered his rent.
I originally covered his rent for the first month in move-in fees, and then in August...
Okay, now the first month in move-in fees, Michael.
She covered it for less than a few weeks until my father wired me money, and then I believe I paid her back.
You believe she says no?
Quite a while back. I don't keep records on these things, so...
Well, if you don't remember, then she says you owe her for a month's rent and move-in fees. And how much is that?
The first month's rent was $592, and then there was 2 other months that he did not pay.
Okay. And since he doesn't remember because he doesn't keep good records, I have to assume that you're telling me the truth. Because when did you lose your job, Michael?
Not until...
is not an answer.
3 or 4 months after we moved in.
Well, then why didn't you have money when you moved in?
I was coming out of a divorce. I lost everything.
What else does he owe you for?
August and then November. The last month we were going to prorate because we didn't live in the apartment the entire month, but when we split up into 2 separate units in the same complex, they just moved the rent around. So I still ended up paying the $400 for his half. And I just tried to get my lease from them, and they said, well, next time you see him, you should tell him that he still owes us $3,000 from breaking his lease.
Oh, Michael, you seem to have a lot of financial problems. What about the month of August, Michael?
The month of August is completely false. It never happened. My grandmother paid rent, so sent me a $400 check every month.
How do you know he owes you for August?
I didn't receive the money. He did pay me $1,000, but I had ended up fronting him some money for a bed, and I put that money toward his bed because I don't want his bed back.
Now tell me about the jet ski.
The jet ski, my father owns 2 750 Polaris Wave Runners, and Michael and his friends, Drew and Jessica, they wanted to go out and ride the jet skis one day. I said, okay. He didn't know how to ride them very well. He ended up crashing one into the other, breaking the entire hood of the jet ski.
And just to clarify, the hood of the jet ski is a very small piece in the front that had a small crack in it.
I have pictures.
She does have pictures, so you'll be able to see what actually happened.
Can I see it, please? But you broke it.
It was broken. I did break it.
Let me see the estimate.
Yes.
Oh, that's the estimate for the new headset.
Okay, so far you owe $992 for rent and related expenses, and you owe $549 to fix the hood of the jet ski that you broke. Let's get to any other loans that you made him. According to your complaint, you put money for him for a TV, for an entertainment center, and for a bed on your credit card.
Within the first week that we moved in together, Michael had a TV. He had a very nice TV, but we didn't have any surround sound for it. He's going to get paid in a few weeks from his job.
Did he take the entertainment center with him when he left?
He did.
How much was the entertainment center?
$289.
$252.67.
I have the receipt right here.
I could be wrong.
And you took it with you?
I did.
Did you pay for it?
I did.
How did you pay for it?
Within the $1,000.
Well, what was this $1,000 supposed to cover, sir?
It was supposed to cover the bed, the entertainment system, and some miscellaneous bills.
What was the $1,000 supposed to cover?
I put the $1,000 toward his bed, which was over $600, and then I put it toward a dog that I purchased for him that he ended up only keeping for a few weeks, and then gave the dog to one of his best friends.
What about this dog?
She did purchase the time. I paid her back later on for it, but...
Paid her back with what? The same $1,000? You can only use $1,000 for so much, Mike.
I did have a job. I did pay her for quite a few things. As I got checks in, I paid her back. I'm sorry, what?
The dog.
Yes, ma'am, I did pay her back for the dog.
When?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I don't have a date. I didn't keep any records. I assumed we were friends and that this wouldn't be a problem.
You were friends until it started to cost her a lot of money. What else?
I also have utility bills.
Forget it. Those are $1,825. That's all. Thank you. Remember, live in a closet before you take another roommate.
Thank you.
Parties Judy versus McNeil. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Burke, these are your two dogs. Is that right?
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, Mr. McNeil, who was an old friend of yours, agreed to temporarily take care of the dogs. He was selling a house, and you didn't want the dogs in the house while realtors were showing it. Mr. McNeil rented a car, came down, picked them up. While he was at your house, there was some discussion about a truck that you owned, an SUV. According to you, Mr. McNeil agreed to buy it. Your complaint is that he refuses to return your dogs and that he did not pay for the SUV, which caused you to repossess it. But you're still suing him for the cost of the SUV. You can certainly have your dogs back. I assume that's why you brought them here.
Yes, ma'am.
And he is counterclaiming. He says that as long as you are no longer friends, and I assume you are no longer friends, he wants you to reimburse him for the expenses for the dogs because he thought this was a temporary thing. And the dogs were with you for how long?
6 months, ma'am.
6 months. He had substantial vet bills, feeding bills, etc. So he's got a counterclaim. Am I correct that you asked him to really take the dogs because you were selling your house?
Tony was going to go ahead and come down, visit us, visit his family before he went ahead and left. And we agreed that he was going to go ahead and come down and bring dogs back up with him. Yes.
Could you just keep it very short?
Sure.
He agreed to help you out and take your dogs while your house was being sold. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when was that?
Beginning of July of 05.
Where do you live,
I
sir?
live in Sebastopol, California, in Sonoma County. It's 400 miles from Ventura, where he lives.
And you came down and did you rent a truck?
I have my own vehicle, a truck, but I didn't want the dogs to ride in the sun in the back of a truck, so we agreed that I would rent a vehicle to take the dogs.
At his expense?
Yeah, but I paid for it.
And he was supposed to reimburse you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever reimburse him, Mr. Burke?
We agreed that I was going to go ahead and give him $400, which I did on July 5th, the day that he left.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
How long was he supposed to keep the dogs, sir?
It was an undetermined time. We were going to go ahead and put our house on the market. When the house sold, at that point, we'd go ahead and pick the dogs up. The longest period of time would be when we were going to go ahead and move to Texas. We had a predetermined time as to when our house was going to be ready in Texas.
Which was when?
The end of November.
So by the end of November, you were definitely going to pick up the dogs?
Yes.
Did you go and get the dogs?
No.
Why not?
Because I couldn't get a hold of Sony to go ahead and make arrangements.
Had you moved?
I left the state of California on November 28th.
When did you move into your new house in Texas?
December 9th.
Where did you live before that?
The builder didn't have our house ready, so we had to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Well, you weren't taking the dogs into a hotel, sir. Is that right?
Some hotels do keep dogs. We didn't have...
That's not what I asked you. When, after December 9th, did he ask you for the return of the dogs?
He's never asked me for the return of the dogs. He was supposed to be there in November to get the dogs. I mean, to me, they're his kids, you know?
When he came to repossess the car, that was on what date?
I don't remember the date.
The date was January 6th.
Did you go there with the police?
I didn't go. There was an agency that I hired to go ahead and do it. They notified the police.
Is the title to the car in your name?
I have the bill of sale that they gave me. I couldn't register the vehicle in my name because in California, I couldn't
Can I see
get
the bill of sale, please?
Okay,
so we're going to get over the dogs right now. The dogs are going back with Mr. and Mrs. Burke, and we're going to address the issue of how much they're going to pay you for taking care of them for the 7 months that they were in your care. Okay, so the bill of sale says that you agreed to pay him $5,000. How much did you pay him?
Actually, when I got the vehicle, when I took the vehicle, I thought it was actually going to be, I just thought that me watching the dogs and stuff were going to work out when he came in November, but I found out what the Blue Book value was on the vehicle, and I called him on it and told him the Blue Book value on the vehicle was only $2,500, and I figured we were going to work it out when he came to get his dogs, a price.
What was the arrangement, Mr. Burke, with regard to the SUV?
We had a signed contract where he was going to pay us $5,000 with a payment schedule.
Can I see it, please?
That Tony signed as well as my wife.
How much money did you actually pay for the car, sir?
Well, I sent him a check for $500, but he knew I couldn't even afford to come down to get the dogs, let alone have a bunch of money like that to pay for the
Mr.
vehicle.
McNeil, you signed a contract for $5,000. You got a bill of sale that you showed me for $5,000 for the car. If you had what they call buyer's remorse, because after you decided to buy it, you checked the Blue Book value, that's not Mr. Burke's problem. Now, he may not have been the greatest of friends if the Blue Book value was not $5,000, but that's what you agreed to pay. Sent him $500. Did you get...
Yes, I did.
Did you cash it?
Yes, I did.
Good. So what do you want from him?
What I'm looking for him is, according to the state of California...
Just a second. Don't tell me according to the state of California. I'm asking you, you took back the truck after 7 months. He took care of your dogs for 7 months, for which you paid him nothing. He paid you $500 towards the truck. So what do you want from him?
I want repairs to go ahead and bring the vehicle back to its pre-sale condition, looking for the cost of some of the expenses or some of the dog items that we had given Tony to go up there. In turn, we do recognize the fact that he has spent money on some vet bills and dog food, which we have all line itemed out, and that's what we're looking for, is to be recouping that as well as taking consideration some of the reasonable expenses.
You're not getting your car back to its pre-sale condition, sir, because I don't know what its pre-sale condition was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You didn't pay.
Former friend Tony McNeil owes for a Chevy Blazer and the return of his wife's dogs. Tony is countersuing for rental car fees, pet care costs, and the return of property.
Mr. McNeil, it seems to me, sir, that it is clear that the Burks, that's your old friend, wanted his money or wanted the Blazer back. And you sent him $500, and you signed a contract for $5,000. But, Mr. Burke, I don't know what you want, sir. You got your truck back. You're getting your dogs back. You didn't pay a thing to him, and I find that you took care of your dogs for 7 months. Nothing.
I landscaped his yard, too.
I don't care if you Don't give me baloney. I don't want to hear you landscaped his yard. How much would it cost you to have boarded your 2 dogs for 7 months? Give me an idea.
We probably would have used a different friend. If we used a boarding company, it probably would have been, I don't know. How much does it cost?
$50 a day.
Let's say it would have cost $20 a day per dog. That's $40 per day. 7 months times 30 is $210. $8,400.
Your Honor, we never intended on Tony keeping them for that long.
Let's say you anticipated him keeping them July, August, September, October, November. 5 months. You want me to tell you how much that would be?
No.
Say thank you. Take your dogs. You're not getting anything else from him?
Your Honor, we have pictures of our truck before we sold it to Tony, of what it was like before we sold it to him.
Figure that in with the $8,000 that it would have cost you to board your dogs. Do you understand? Do you understand? He took care of your animals, fed them, took them to the vet, got their dog food, cleaned them, kept them in, looks to me like very good, healthy condition, and he did that for 7 months. That's a friend that you don't take to court. You get nothing.
Your Honor.
You could call me Your Honor from today until tomorrow. You get nothing.
We couldn't get a hold of him. We tried.
Listen, you get a police officer, you go and you say, he has my dogs, I want them. The truth of the matter is that you weren't ready to take your dogs till December because that's when your house finally got ready. So that's a lot of baloney.
We wanted
our dogs earlier.
We wanted our dogs
Then
earlier.
you should have, let me tell you something, I have 2 dogs. Somebody took my dogs and I wanted them back. I would get the entire U.S. Marine Corps to accompany me to their home to get my dogs back.
Well,
You
unfortunately,
made
Sebastian,
no
please
effort.
don't do that.
Listen to me. You made no effort.
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, we did.
Sure.
You got the
How
vehicle
many
back?
What's the effort?
No.
You
That's
got the vehicle
paper.
back?
Listen to me. That you do in the comfort of your home. That you sit down and you write out and you say sin. And I'm talking about getting off your behinds and getting in a car like he did and going up and saying to the police, this man has my dogs, I want him back. That you didn't do.
We didn't go ahead and just drive 400 miles just for the sake of driving around. You know,
Mr. Burke,
you know that sounds really good.
Mr. Burke, you got your SUV back and you're getting your dogs back.
I've got a vehicle that's destroyed.
And you had
it cost
the
me
use.
$1,500 to repo it, and another $1,000 for.
And you had the use of his car for 7 months, and you paid him $500. You are a big grown-up guy. If you choose, when he handed you this and say, listen, this is not really something that I can abide by, then you don't sign it. It's a wash. Goodbye.
28-year-old David Brewster is suing his ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old Bradley Wallace, for breaking their lease. Bradley claims David was doing drugs in their apartment.
Mr. Brewster, I've read your complaint, and according to your complaint, you and the defendant moved in together, signed a 1-year lease on an apartment. The defendant moved out prior to the termination of that lease, and you want him to pay you his half of the rent for the remainder of the lease.
That's correct.
Pretty much what the case is about. Mr. Wallace says that you both had good intentions when you moved in together, but shortly afterwards had a parting of the ways, and you made his life miserable. He felt unsafe to find you a roommate. You declined his offer to find you a new roommate, and he feels as if he's within his rights to leave. When did you first move in together?
We originally started out speaking online in November. We actually met and hung out a few times in the month of December. Personalities, we got along very well. In January, that's when we decided to get an apartment together for me to move down to Virginia Beach.
Where had you been living?
Prior to, I lived in northern Delaware.
Oh, so you actually relocated?
Yes, I relocated with my employer also. The opportunity came up with them as well as to move to Virginia with Brad as well.
When did you sign a lease?
We signed the lease at the end of January.
To begin February 1st?
Correct.
And Mr. Wallace, when did you move out?
On June the 20th, Your Honor.
Why?
I moved out because I felt unsafe. There's references to drugs. I was asked to leave on July the 4th because I might not like it because there would people be over doing drugs and things like that.
Well, you have to be specific with me, Mr. Wallace.
Yes,
because I have to make a judgment as to whether you had good cause to move out. So you can't tell me I felt unsafe, because that is a conclusion. You have to tell me why you felt unsafe.
I don't like drugs. I would come home a couple times a week. There would be people in the house that I didn't know. I was asked, I would be coming home from work and get messages on my phone, you may not want to come, I've got someone over. And the last time I was at home, I got that message. I said, that's fine, I'm leaving next week. And that is when the reason I moved, he told me, don't F with me, I'll F you up. So I got my stuff and I left.
You say in your answer, Mr. Wallace, that you offered to find him a new roommate. It doesn't sound to me as if this was an amicable parting. When did you offer to find him a new roommate?
That was before the first part of June. We decided the relationship wasn't going to work. I said, I'll stay to the end of July. I can help find a roommate, whatever I can do, but I'm leaving.
Did you have the discussion with him at the beginning of June, Mr. Brewster?
Absolutely
About
not.
him leaving?
We did not have a discussion about him leaving, no.
Were you under the impression that he was happy living with you?
We got along very well. I mean, after the separation and we agreed to live together on, just by his terms, we got along very well for a short time.
And when was that?
We broke up, that was in May. And from May until that point, everything had been fine.
Now, did you begin to have dates with other people in the month of May?
No, I have not.
Did you bring people home?
Nope.
In the month of May?
Did not bring them.
What about June?
Nope. I had tried to start making friends with people in the area because I was new to the area. He'd been there previous too. Not having a vehicle left me kind of in a situation where, I couldn't do much. I couldn't ask a total stranger that I'm trying to befriend to take me to their house.
So you invited people to the house?
I tried to have friends over. One person that he did know is someone I had worked with, and we actually mutually hung out together. But he was not very happy with all of us hanging out at our house. All I wanted to do is at least have some time when the situation came up where we were unhappy and we were fighting about that. I just wanted a friend to come over. And previous to, he had been dating someone that I'd known, and then I said it was fine to bring that person back to the house. So I thought
you may have been happier with the situation than he was. So you really knew in June that he wasn't happy, and you weren't happy either.
Yeah, we weren't happy because he was not allowing me to have people over into our own house.
I don't care what the reason was. They weren't happy. I'm sure there are two sides to the story. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a judge, so I don't have to figure out why you weren't happy. You weren't happy.
Correct.
That's what I was getting at. You paid June's rent?
June and July, yes.
Okay, I want to see proof of July's payment. He says you didn't pay him July's rent.
No, he paid me July's rent, but not pay August. July,
So he moved out June 20th, and he paid July's rent.
In 2 installments that I had to come after him for.
Paid July's rent. What efforts did you make, sir, in July to find...
I placed an ad on roommates.com.
You have a copy of that?
No, it's something that's just completely on the internet. It doesn't have confirmation.
You can print it out.
I guess I could have. I apologize, I didn't think of that.
And you didn't get any responses?
Hardly anybody. The people that were looking for longer leases than what I was looking for, because my lease was going to end in January.
You weren't going to renew your lease?
Possibly not. I wasn't, because I wasn't happy exactly the location I was staying at, not knowing so many people. I was looking forward to maybe moving back north again.
Are you still in the same apartment now?
Yes, I am.
What's the rent?
The rent is $900 a month.
What prompted you at this point to sue Mr. Wallace?
Because what we had discussed when he gave me July's rent, I said, if you just help me out through August, help me get back on my feet, then you know what, I'll agree to take you off the lease in September. But then after the situation happened in July, I never had any more contact with him.
What happened in July?
I had to come find him for the money. He said that he would call me on a Friday afternoon, never did. Didn't return my 2 phone calls. I so happened to go to dinner that night, and I saw him on the corner with his date going to dinner. And from that point on, I had no contact with Brad.
Where are you living now, Mr. Wallace?
Currently with my sister. I'm getting an apartment.
Did you have a discussion with Mr. Brewster that you were going to pay July and August, and then he was going to forget the rest?
July, yes. August, I did not agree to. No.
I didn't ask you whether you agreed to it. I said, did you have a discussion with him about July and August?
Yes, he wanted me to.
I think that's more than reasonable. Very difficult when you move in with somebody that you hardly know. Very difficult to live with somebody, period. Living somebody under these circumstances is practically impossible.
Correct.
So I think that you have to do due diligence and try to really get somebody to live with you, unless you want to pay the $900 a month yourself for the next few months. That's probably a much better idea. You have just a few months left to go on this lease, and then find someplace cheaper if you can't afford it. Otherwise, maybe this new venture that you're involved in is going to pay you enough.
Hopefully it will.
Hopefully it will. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $540.